Darren Kagan on hand for the home finale between the Bengals and the Browns. A dark day in Cleveland sports history. She joins us live. Darren?
That is so true, Vince. It hasn't been easy to watch Brown football lately. One thing that's been hard for Browns players to do since the announcement that they are moving to Baltimore has been to play good football. The Browns are on a 6-game losing streak since the move to Baltimore was announced. So the challenge today, especially for the longtime veterans, try not to get too emotional about this game and try to go out with some pride and a win.
One of the greatest memories I have of Cleveland, and I tell the people and the fans. And I'll never forget the way they treated me and my family. And, I'm not losing nothing. I'm gaining something in this. I always had that memory unless I lose my mind. That's what I was telling them. And it's something I always carry with me wherever I go. And now something I tell my son one day when he get old enough to understand.
I miss the fans and miss the atmosphere and miss the dog pound. And, it's a lot of tradition there at the stadium. And just hopefully we can win the last game at home.
I'm going to have my video camera down there and taking pictures and everything, so it'll be special.
Today's game against interstate rival Cincinnati is not sold out. As of Friday, there are about 18,000 seats left, which is considerably more than in years past. Now, of course, the hardcore Dog Pound fans wouldn't miss this game for anything, and they started arriving early this morning to Cleveland Stadium. Owner Art Modell once again will not be here, and security will be tight, as it has been since Modell announced that he's moving the team to Baltimore.
We've had very few instances of any kind of rowdiness. We haven't had any outbreaks in the stadium, and we're just very pleased and encouraged by that.
We are prepared for any contingency. We'll have more officers outside the stadium, inside the stadium.
We've been very pleased with the fan response. They've been very courteous. We encourage them to come, enjoy the day, and have a good time.
It's like a funeral, but hopefully this ain't the last game. It ain't over with yet. If not, I put the dog suit up, burn it or whatever. Root for Baltimore, wherever they go. It's rough. You do this so long, and then now it's over. That's the bad part about it. That's right. Put a little teardrops here.
We're with the players as long as they're here in Cleveland. We become friends with them, just by talking to them. Now we won't be able to do that. It's like a friendship ended, and it just goes. It's hard to describe.
It's not over.
So you will see barking today, but one thing you won't see, veteran players, former Browns players that might want to be along the sidelines, that's not going to happen. That's one of the security measures that's being taken today, restricting the visitors along the sidelines. Another thing you won't see, Browns players won't be introduced individually. The team has decided to come out as a group to show a form of unity. Vince, as we toss it back to you, I just can send my condolences as a native Clevelander to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Darren. And you know what? See to it that those two guys don't get sent to a kennel or anything now that the Browns are getting headed out of town. I feel bad for them because, all those Dog Pound fans.
Who knows what? I
know.
That hurts. That hurts.
It really does. It's very emotional, and I wonder if emotions will be a factor in today's game with the Bengals, you guys.
I think they can be, but this team has been victimized by three thieves: Art Modell, Andre Rison, and Eric Turner. None of these guys have done anything for this ball club this season, and that's hurt this ball club. Whether or not they can get up for this last game, it really doesn't matter. It would be anticlimactic.
Well, Vince, from a coaching standpoint, I don't know how Belichick is doing it. A high-ranking front office guy told me this week that we just didn't even show up in Minnesota last week, got thumped there, and the team, I doubt if it shows up today. Look for the Bengals to romp.
Well, that's the hand that Art Modell dealt him, and the city certainly doesn't deserve what it's getting in this deal. All right, with far less fanfare and pain, the Houston Oilers close out their home season before a scheduled move to Tennessee. It's better late than never, I guess, as fans will see Steve McNair starting at quarterback against the visiting Jets. And James, the kid got some playing time last week against the
bunches of Hall of Famers like Canton, Ohio's own Marion Motley and Lou the Toe Groza. The list goes on and on and on. On to Jim Brown, the greatest running back of all time. Brown led the Browns to their last NFL title over the Colts in '64. The great ones followed, like Leroy Kelly. 1980s cardiac season with Brian Sipe, but it ended in heartbreak. Hometown hero Bernie Kosar had them dreaming Super Bowl, but first came the drive. Then came the fumble. But through it all, the dog pound has remained loyal until now. What can you expect from good people who, in the words of Jim Brown, have done nothing wrong? Football is leaving its cradle after 50 years and 50 light years worth of legacy when the Browns host, ironically, Ohio's other pro football team and Paul Brown's second team, the Cincinnati Bengals. The season has become a nightmare, but it's nothing compared to the hurt felt by all football fans, not just Browns fans. Money talks, the Browns are walking, perhaps. Andrea Kramer is live in what must be a sea of emotion at Cleveland Stadium. And Andrea, what's the mood in the stadium this morning?
Chris, right now it's almost quiet. It's a bit eerie, although some of the old Browns players that you talked about, Lou the Toe Groza, he's outside in the parking lot. Brian Sipe will be there today. They will restrict the number of former Browns that are permitted on the sidelines for security purposes. There are right now 18,000 tickets unsold, but there will be plenty of security. Plainclothesmen, riot police, SWAT teams just roaming the entire stadium, especially making sure that no one tries to take home any souvenirs like any chairs that are out there. As for the tickets, they will not be torn today. They will be embossed for commemorative purposes. The teams themselves, the Bengals will be introduced as usual, but the Browns will come out of their dugout as a team, no individual introductions. Then they'll run down here, a few of them. They'll greet some fans in the legendary dog pound, shake some hands, some high fives, and then hopefully, Chris, the game will get on without any hitches. But if the Browns do lose, you can expect things to get ugly here.
Andrea, have you had a chance to talk with any of the players and understand how they're feeling this morning?
Chris, there's a very strange feeling among some of the players. A lot of them feel almost abandoned by the team themselves. Art Modell spoke to them last on November 8th. They have not seen him since then. There's also a feeling of nostalgia that's out there, though. Some players just want to get things over with, want to get this whole season over with. Others have strong feelings of sentimentality on both sides, the Browns and the Bengals.
I'll have my video camera down there. I think I'm going to make like a little documentary of the coming into the stadium, walking in, going through the locker room.
I would like to carry a piece of that stadium with me if that's possible. I might get a piece of the turf, or I might go shake some of the people's hands in the dog pound and tell them thanks for their support over the last 8 years, and especially thanks for the support this year.
Myself growing up as a kid, watching the Cardiac Kids and all the great players and all the great games that have been played here, and for that to just vanish for all the future generations. I think that's sad, and I only see it from that perspective because I lived here and I lived it.
I grew up with this franchise, and it's hard for me to believe that this could be the last game at Lakefront Stadium. I don't, in my heart of hearts, think that it will be, and I have to say I don't think that it should be.
And believe me, the irony is not lost on Mike Brown, the son of the legendary Paul Brown, after whom these Browns were named. The irony that the last game for the Cleveland Browns could be against his Cincinnati Bengals. We talked about emotion. There's strong feelings here today, and nobody could possibly know that better than Tommy. You grew up as a Browns fan. You've sat here in the stadium many games. How are you feeling about this?
Well, Andrea, I certainly can sympathize with all those Browns fans. Everything that has to do with me in football began with the Cleveland Browns, either as a fan going to the games with my dad as a youngster or as a pro playing against the Browns in Cleveland. The greatest game I was ever involved in was the 1986 AFC Championship when John Elway took us on the drive that you've referenced. Certainly, I'm a friend of Art Modell's. I say that first and foremost, but what he has done is tainted every memory for every fan who's ever supported that football team, and it's just wrong. And Mort, I'm just hoping that something can be done. I don't know what, but that something can be done to stop it.
Well, TJ, a couple of things here, and Mike Brown alluded to it. This move for Art Modell is not a lock. There's the lease issue that will be tried in February, but on January 17th, when owners meet in Dallas, I think two significant things will happen. The owners will vote to block this move, and at the same time vote to guarantee Baltimore a team by 1998, clearing the way for Baltimore to begin construction on a new stadium. Part of the Cleveland problem is the stadium situation. The NFL doesn't necessarily think a renovation of this Cleveland stadium works and that a new one needs to be built. There's a lot of what-ifs. The latest concerns the future of the Colts because of health concerns for owner Bob Irsay. The Colts now become one of the candidates to move back to Baltimore. Now, that's a rather dramatic scenario. The Browns staying in Cleveland, the Colts return to Baltimore. It's a lot of talk, a lot of dreams. Don't know what's going to happen, really, Chris.
Yeah, but people should know more that the NFL and everybody looking at all of the scenarios vigorously. A high-ranking NFL official told me this week that 50-50 pro football in Cleveland, not the Browns, not one specific scenario, but about 50-50 pro football in Cleveland. That was higher than I expected to hear. So we shall see. And obviously in this one, stay tuned. But that doesn't change the emotion today at the park. Well, there's another team finally playing its final home game after 36 seasons. Paul Brown's team actually began playing in 1946 in the old All-America Football Conference. In that league's 4-year existence, Browns club won all 4 championships. They've won 4 NFL championships, the last one in 1964, when ironically they beat the Baltimore Colts. The Browns have remained consistent through the years, last season making the NFL playoffs for the 23rd time. Only the Giants and Cowboys can equal that. As for the quality of player, only the Bears, Packers, and Giants have more members enshrined in the Hall of Fame. Finally, if you include their AAFC games and pre-regular and postseason NFL games, today will be the 444th game the Browns will play in Cleveland. Games with attendance of nearly 27 million fans. One of those fans, he has his own show on ABC, and he's been touched like so many others.
Hi, I'm Drew Carey on The Drew Carey Show. Coming up on NFL Game Day, we'll explain to you why you don't see one Cleveland Browns thing in this whole bar, including my shirt.
Next, Miami back on track. Dan Marino hopes to dismantle the Bills' banged-up secondary. Shuffling to Buffalo next.
At Riders Jeans and Casual Clothes, we studied hundreds, thousands of regular.
Says it all. Let's go back to Andrea Kramer. Andrea?
Thank you very much, Chris. Along with Hall of Famer Jim Brown, I just joked with them they're going to change his name legally to that. You have decided that you will not be joining the Browns in Baltimore. Why, and does that reflect how strong feelings you have for this idea of a move?
Well, I'm not a Baltimore Brown. I don't even know if they're going to be Baltimore Browns. It might be a different name. But I don't know. I wouldn't be there under any circumstances. But I haven't been invited. And my work here is finished anyway. I'm going to work in the city of Cleveland with my program where I can. And wish Art Modell and everybody else good luck in Baltimore.
Whose quote-unquote fault is it that it's coming to this? Is it Art Modell? Is it the city of Cleveland? What are your thoughts on that?
There are many contributing factors. I don't blame any particular person. Of course, Art made the decision. But I think if the politicians here in the state would have really communicated with him, that this could have been avoided. I really do.
Jim, what are your emotions today as you will stand on the sidelines for possibly the last time?
Well, I'm not an emotional person. I run an organization. I have a family. I have to really look at the emotions of the fans, and I'm going to see what's going to happen. I know they're going to feel pretty deeply about it, and I'm going to feel deeply about them. But as far as I'm concerned, I'll always be a Cleveland Brown. I'll always love the fact that I played here, and I love the fans here.
Very quickly to wrap up, do you have a feeling of what the team thinks about this? I know there's a lot of uncertainty for them. Have you talked to any players about this, get a sense of how they feel?
Well, among the coaches and the players, there's a real desperate kind of a feeling. They're totally in the dark. They don't know what's going to happen. They don't know what to do. And I feel very bad for them, but they're making a lot of money.
The bottom line, that's all you need to know about the NFL today. Thank you very much, Jim.
And here are some of the many. Lou the Toe Groza. Lou the Pen Groza today. Hall of Famers, so many Hall of Famers, many on hand, as Andrea reported.
This could be the Browns' final game in this city. The Cleveland Browns, one of the league's signature franchises in all of sports, one of the franchises most closely linked to its city, most passionately and consistently supported by its fans. Fans who today, with a mixture of sadness, anger, and resignation, arrive more to mark an occasion than to watch an otherwise meaningless football game between the Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals. The Browns are a team of legend, the team of Paul Brown, the team of Marion Motley and Otto Graham, and of course of Jim Brown. The team of shared memory for Clevelanders of several generations. Ryan to Collins for the championship in 1964. The cold heartbreak of Brian Sipes' 1980 team. And the teams who later that decade 3 times came within a game of the Super Bowl. It may have been temporarily painful, but it was shared pain. It was part of what it meant to be from Cleveland. Now that team, if its owner has his way, will be gone. Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Costas, joined in a bit by Mike Ditka. As you know, the Browns situation is complicated. The city has taken legal action to block Art Modell's move to Baltimore. The NFL itself is well aware that the Browns are only the most extreme example of a recent spate of franchise hopscotching that imperils the league's good name. And thus, the league could vote at next month's owners' meeting to block the Browns' move. So it's possible that NFL football in some form can still be saved for Cleveland. We'll talk about that and also bring you the thoughts of Browns players of the past when we come back here in a few minutes.
We're joined now by Mike Ditka. Coach, what's your take on this situation?
Well, Bob, I tell you, I think the irony of the whole deal is that most of the country really doesn't understand the significance of what's occurring in Cleveland. But they should, because if it can happen here, it can happen anywhere. Let me talk about the fans a little bit. I met a lot of people, talked to a lot of people in the last day. These fans are some of the greatest fans in the country. I said that when I was a coach when I had to come in here. These are rabid fans who really love the Cleveland Browns. Let me talk about the stadium. The fans don't care about this stadium. They like this stadium. They don't mind anything about it. The people who should care about the stadium are the visiting teams. The visiting teams' locker rooms are the worst in the National Football League. These locker rooms have not changed since I was a player. They're small, overcrowded, they're not sufficient for anything, but that's what should be changed. But the stadium itself, the fans get along with that. Let me talk about the third thing, the owner. Art Modell, a wonderful man, made the greatest mistake that he ever made. He went through, he tried to execute a plan that makes no sense. Here's a man who came into the league a number of years ago, bought the Cleveland Browns. He's made a reputation in this community. He destroyed it with one greedy move. And that move was based solely on one thing, nothing else, money. And that's wrong. And I want to say this to some of the other owners in the National Football League, especially the guy in Chicago. Don't make the same mistake. Fans do not forget.
Don't make the same mistake in Chicago, or you'll have Ditka to deal with. Also with us in Cleveland is Jim Gray. Let's go down to him on the field. Jim.
All right, thank you very much, Bob. Well, there's a lot of security here today. There are 4 SWAT units here, 5 riot response units, 250 officers. But so far inside, the people are very quiet and melancholy. They look like they are here for a funeral. Now, we also have learned that outside the stadium, there are a couple of thousand people who are protesting the actions of Art Modell. So far, there has been no violence out there. We are now joined by Jim Brown, the all-time great running back for the Cleveland Browns. Jim, you have been rather unemotional until you arrived today. What are your emotions now?
Well, of course, this is what the game is about. The fans, the people. It's a very difficult day. If this is the last game, it's emotional. I'm going to keep mine inside. But for the fans, I think it's a terrible day.
Jim, we appreciate you joining us. We're sorry we're so short with our time.
Thank you very much.
Let's go back upstairs to Bob Costas.
Jim, as you know, the 2 central figures in this dispute are Art Modell and Cleveland Mayor Michael White. Now, Modell declined interview requests by NBC on the advice of his lawyers. Today, he's at his home in West Palm Beach, Florida. Yesterday, here in Cleveland, I spoke with the mayor.
Is it realistic to hope that you win in court and Art Modell is made to stay for the remainder of his lease and maybe even beyond? Or is it a more practical scenario to win in court and then that gives you some leverage and you can make a deal to bring a new franchise here under better circumstances?
We have been wronged. The league knows it, the lawyers know it, Commissioner Tagliabue knows it, and America knows it. I think it is incumbent upon the commissioner, the league, and Mr. Modell to make it right. We are very reasonable people, but this must be made right.
Given the present circumstances, would it be acceptable to the city of Cleveland to retain the Browns' name, retain the team's colors, and receive a promise that a new franchise was coming here immediately or close to immediately, and then let Art Modell take off for Baltimore?
We want our team, we want our colors, and we want our name.
But could our team be some team that isn't presently in Cleveland?
That's not a matter that I'm going to discuss on nationwide TV.
Was the city late to realize how serious this situation was? Did they take the Browns for granted while they were dealing with the Indians, dealing with the Cavaliers, building the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Did they underestimate how annoyed Art Modell was getting?
The day before the election, Art Modell stood on the podium with Governor Glenn Dinding saying they were having fun trying to sabotage our election, and 72% of the people in this community still voted to keep the Browns in town and to raise the money. All of that, Bob, in 331 days. We weren't asleep at the switch. We did every single thing the team and the owner asked, and we did it within an efficient amount of time.
When was the last time you spoke to Art Modell?
I have not spoken to Art Modell in more than 2.5 months.
What would you say to him if he called you tomorrow?
You know, Art, I've known you a long time. You've done a lot of good things in this town. but the very worst thing you've ever done in your life is what you did to Cleveland on November the 6th. You still have the opportunity to make it right by renouncing this deal and returning the Cleveland Browns here. If not, then we are obliged to fight you at every turn until we bring our team home.
Time only allows us to show a small portion of the conversation I had yesterday with Mayor White. He made several points in a comprehensive interview, one of which was that this is no longer just about the Browns, that everybody in the country is aware that the issue of franchise free agency really imperils the credibility of the NFL unless they do something about it.
Bob, there's no question about it. It's about greed, really. And everybody wants to make money. Everybody's entitled to make money. But you can't offer a franchise in a city like Art Modell in this city for 40 years. He made money. He got his reputation. He's well known all over the country because of what the National Football League has given to him. He's got to start giving back. The fans in Baltimore are not better fans than the fans in Cleveland, believe me.
But, of course, the fans in Baltimore got the shaft some time back when Bob Irsay took the moving bands, took off for Indianapolis. Commissioner Tagliabue says the league basically is powerless unless they can get that limited antitrust exemption from Congress so that they wouldn't have to fear treble damages from teams they try to stop from moving from city to city in an antitrust suit.
Joined now by Will McDonough. Will, very quickly, in the last segment, we heard the mayor of the city of Cleveland say all the pieces were in place for Art Modell to stay. Is that true?
I don't think that's true in any way, shape, or form. There's no evidence of that.
All right. Now, are we looking at the last Cleveland Browns game in Cleveland?
No, I don't think it's a slam dunk that this is the last game, Greg, and I'll explain why. This past week, the judge in Cleveland said we're going to have a trial on February 12th. The first thing that's going to happen, to me, the NFL will not vote now on Cleveland on January 17th. They'll put that over and say, let's go to the court in Cleveland and find out what happens. Well, this judge has already issued a temporary restraining order. He has the trial. He was appointed last year. He faces election next year. You're going to have him overrule himself and then try to win an election. So I say he fines for Cleveland, then it goes to the Court of Appeals. And you go all the way down on the process until the end. I think you're in the next year. And I know the Browns have already made contingency plans to play in Cleveland next year if they have to. As soon as this season's over, they're moving all their personnel to Baltimore. They're going to train in Baltimore. But if they have to, they will fly into home games in Cleveland next year and then fly back to Baltimore.
All right, Will. The worst nightmare in sports, more action in the courts than on the field. Let's go back to Cleveland and Bob.
Well, Greg, as you know, the president and general manager of the Cincinnati Bengals is Mike Brown. He's the son of Paul Brown, the founder of the Cleveland Browns, one of the most significant figures in the history of pro football. In fact, Art Modell's first significant act after assuming ownership of the Browns was to fire Paul Brown. Yesterday, we asked Mike Brown about the rich Cleveland history.
I have a million memories, and they're all good ones. My dad had a magnificent career with the Browns in Cleveland, and he created something there that I think flowered into what we see today. To have that cut down, to see it transplanted elsewhere, if you will, is hard for me to accept. I think the Browns belong in Cleveland. I am associated with the Cincinnati Bengals, and this may sound funny, but at heart, I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. That is the tree from which our branch sprung.
We're joined now by Brian Sipe, the Browns quarterback of the 70s and 80s. Brian, you drove to Cleveland from California this past week, stopping at Browns fan club locations all along the way. What was it like?
Well, I did, and I was with my friend and great Browns tackle, Jerry Shirt. We felt like we needed to be back here for this possibly last home game, experience it with the fans. But what we found all the way across the country was an overwhelming outpouring of emotion by not only Browns fans, but sports fans all across the country. This is something that's really touched them. Ron, you've had so many great memories in this stadium. Today's got to be a tough day. Well, it is, and especially for this city. You know, I'm not sure what the outcome of all of this is going to be, but regardless of what happens, it will never be the same. And there was 50 years of history here, and we felt that as players, and we felt like we were carrying a little something special each time we took the field out here.
Brian, thanks. Mike Ditka and I will be back at halftime. I'll have a commentary on this situation then. And in the meantime, Greg Gumbel will wrap things up in New York right after these messages.
Last time, the Cleveland Browns take the field in preparation for their game against the Cincinnati Bengals. And there's wide receiver Michael Jackson, his way of saying goodbye to the fans.
afternoon, everybody. The NFL on NBC, an historical afternoon. The Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns. Is it the end of the Browns in Cleveland? This is Charlie Jones along with Randy Cross. It is a very cold afternoon, but it is clear the sun is shining. But it is not shining in the hearts of the Cleveland fans here today, Randy.
Well, Charlie, it's only appropriate. I don't know if many people have been in this stadium when the sun was actually shining in December for a game. It's great for the fans that are here. There's all kinds of things. You've heard it all on the pregame show, the way things have been. Mike Ditka put it best about the fans and how they feel about their football team here in Cleveland. They're absolutely crazy about it. The reality of our situation, though, is, Charlie, in the NFL today, rollerball is here. It's corporate football. It's a billionaire's business, and the family owners are on the way out.
The head coach for the Cincinnati Bengals, Dave Shula, record is 6-8. He would like to get to 500 if he can win the last two. Bill Belichick of the Cleveland Browns, they have lost 6 in a row. Their record on the year is 4-10. And the weather, to make it official, is as follows: 32 degrees. I told you it was cold. Chance of snow flurries, they didn't tell me about that. The Browns have won the toss, and they will be receiving, and that means that Lee Johnson will be kicking off for Cincinnati. Ernest Biner and Derek Alexander are the deep backs on the return for Cleveland. The atmosphere here is very quiet, very somber. In reality, it is more like a family funeral.
Well, then it's a good reflection of their football team. I think since the move was declared, this team has pretty much reflected a dirge, a wake. It's been that way, and it's sort of poetic that they get the ball off the crack here for Vinny Testaverde in this offense to do something.
And here is Derek Alexander on the return across the 20, and he is out to the 25-yard line. And so Cleveland will go to work following that 19-yard kickoff return, led by their quarterback, Vinny Testaverde. And here is the offensive line. He'll be operating behind.
Well, their experiment of 1 week is gone. They're going to put Steve Everett back at center. That gives them the best chance to run the ball. Very important to get Biner going with this running game.
And then when they go to the 4-wide, Derek Alexander is going to come in. Normally a 1-back, 3-wide receiver set. And they start from the 25-yard line, and they start on the ground. And Ernest Biner gets the call. And we'll check out the defense of Cincinnati, Randy.
Well, up front, they're pretty good size. They're missing Dan Wilkinson out with this neck injury he suffered last week. That hurts him inside. A lot smaller with Artie Smith down there.
And in their secondary?
Secondary is going to be tough. They eventually have 3 starting corners with Roger Jones, Corey Sawyer, and when they go to the nickel, they bring in Rod Jones.
So it is 2nd down and 7. In case you're joining us, this is the opening drive of the ball game. And there's absolutely nothing there for Ernest Biner, as Andre Collins is there to bring him down.
Well, one thing that's a known fact in the Cleveland offense is it has a distinct lack of speed. Lack of speed in the offensive line, lack of speed at the running back position. If you go sideways against this defense right now, you got absolutely no chance. Belichick's best chance offensively is just to be boring, pound it, and smash it in the middle, because they can't make the corners.
3rd down and 11, the ball back at the 24-yard line. 4 wide receivers in the offensive set, and deep over the middle, in and out of the hands of Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson yesterday told us, he said, I always have trouble at the beginning of a game. I can't hang on onto the ball. Then I will feed on the fans here because they get on my back.
Well, and it's not really the hard ones he has a hard time with. It's the easy ones. Going from the light, ball coming out of the dark, doesn't concentrate on the ball, and little prophetic statement from Mr. Jackson. He misses an easy one early.
Tom Tupa will be kicking it away. And a pretty good kick. Corey Sawyer is the return man with the fair catch. And he will pull it in at the 33-yard line. 42 yards on the kick. And so now Cincinnati will go to work offensively. First time in the ball game. Their young quarterback is Jeff Blake. He's going to the Pro Bowl. He is having an outstanding year.
biggest difference from last year to this year, Charlie, when you talk to Jeff Blake and he talks about this offense, it's us. It's my offense.
My
We
back.
do this.
Yes, right.
That's a big offensive line. Biggest job today for that line. Protect Jeff Blake so he can get the ball to those skilled players.
And they come out throwing. Back underneath the coverage. This is to Jeff Cochran. We've got a flag down.
It's down inside, down in that holding area. Cleveland's going to be going up into the face of these offensive linemen a lot to get push on Blake.
Jerry Austin is the referee on this frigid afternoon.
Tripping, number 72 of the offense, 10 yards, repeat first down.
That's on Scott Brumfield.
Boy, when you're 6'8", 330 pounds, why do you have to trip somebody?
Just nudge him.
I mean, a guy like that couldn't even make that move. You just saw Jerry Austin putting that foot behind. He'd fall down trying that.
First down and 20. The ball now back at the 23-yard line. The Cincinnati Bengals, Dave Shula, the coach, describes their offense as ball control passing offense. This one is incomplete at the 30-yard line. Let's check out the defense of the Cleveland Browns.
And the spot really this Browns defense wants to attack is with this front seven. Attack that offensive line. Break down the line with these guys. You can attack this offense.
You can attack their secondary also.
Well, Antonio Langham's got a banged-up shoulder, hurt last week against Minnesota. They'll go against him. And we go to nickel. Dana Hall, the former 49er, comes in, and Tim Jacobs was victimized all week last weekend for Langham, and he's got a bad shoulder.
Second and 20. Play action fake, rolling, picking up a screen block from the referee, and then out of bounds. Not a bad move by Jeff Blake. You find help anywhere you can. He was finally chased out by Larry Webster.
Well, self-preservation can be a very motivating factor sometimes. You take advantage of the bodies you've got out there around you, but a good job right there of flushing Blake out of the pocket, making him get out there and make things happen. And what they're doing defensively right now, 61. 61, Tootin, the big offensive tackle, in at tight end. But they've zoned up so far. Not much man out of Cleveland.
And Tootin has a couple of receptions and a touchdown this year. As a good arm goes deep but misses. He was going to David Dunn. It will be fourth down, and so Cincinnati will kick it away.
Remember, this Cincinnati offense, Charlie, is still very young with Pickens and Scott and Blake and whatnot. They need early success. When they get frustrated, as they have been the last few weeks at times, that's when they can start trying to make things happen. Almost a pickoff there by Langham.
Ooh, taking some time as if it might be a fake, possibly setting something up later. And it's going to be down to around the 33 of the 34-yard line, first touching. And Cleveland was going to take over. We have no score in the ball game. We'll step aside. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to Cleveland. It is very quiet here. How quiet is it? It doesn't feel like a football game at all, does it?
Not really. It's very, very somber. And what these fans need is a reason to get excited. And believe me, these fans would love to get excited about something big happen. You know, but this offense that Cleveland has a good amount of talent. In fact, Tony Dungy from the Minnesota Vikings, who they played last week, said that he thought this offense had the second best talent to any team they've played besides Dallas.
So Cleveland in a scoreless first quarter thus far, opening their second drive from the 36-yard line. They're going to pick up 4 to the 40. Ernest Biner carries. Armando Stallings makes the tackle for Cincinnati. It'll be second down and 6. Here's a look at Ernest Biner. 71 rushes, 259 yards. You saw his average. He has been averaging 7 carries a ball game. He, by the way, is their #1 receiver with 48 receptions.
Well, the big dog running the ball has been Leroy Horde. He was put on IR yesterday with that cracked rib.
And here's a little swing into the left flat, and it's Biner again. He pulls it in, and he's going to see where they get some mark. It could be the first down. It's going to be the first down. First down of the ball game.
Well, they kind of did a little change up. They had 3 or 4 wide receivers in the first play, bring in 2 tight ends on this one. They're thinking run and just swing that out to Biner. And Biner's showing something this offense has sorely been missing since they let Eric Metcalf get away last year, and that's a little speed and wiggle out of a back.
Cleveland, 47-yard line. In the sunshine, Biner around the corner, left side. Nice inside-out move, and he'll get a fan reaction there. May pick up the first down. Corey Sawyer, after a gain of 11, finally brings him down. We talked with Sawyer yesterday. He played his collegiate ball at Florida State. He said, you know, it took me a little time to get comfortable, but just like at Florida State, you like to talk a little trash and play comfortable football.
Well, you know, he said he was always worried about making a mistake, and he went to the final judge, Charlie, to get himself settled down. He went to his mom.
That's right.
He said, Mom, what am I doing wrong? And she told him, hey, look, you're just not the same guy. You're not loose. You're not out there being what made you good.
Not having a good time. Pass back underneath the coverage. Biner again. Biner is the entire offense thus far for the Cleveland Browns. Ricardo McDonald wraps him up. They'll spot it to the 40-yard line, so it's going to go for 3. It'll be 2nd down and 7.
Well, a little bit of this of mixing in Biner too, Charlie, honestly, is to sort of get Larry Peccatello, the defensive coordinator, and the defense for Cincinnati thinking about Biner, thinking about the running backs, and try to get some attention away from the Michael Jacksons and the Andre Risons and the McCardles and whatnot, because that's where the big plays come from.
Here's the screen, and it's Biner again, but this time Cincinnati is all over the screen. They're going to lose maybe 3 yards on the play back to the original line of scrimmage.
Andre Collins made a great play there. They had both tight ends in on the backside blocking. They're trying to go off to a little flip screen to the left. See the tight ends on the right, making things look like a run, a little flip screen with the line. Look how Collins just broke that whole blocking structure down. I mean, that's the kind of thing that Collins did for a long time for a gentleman in our studio, Joe Gibbs in Washington with the Redskins. He just makes big plays.
4 wide receivers in the set, 3rd down and 10. Testaverde swing left flat, has to be Biner. It is. No, he drops it. I'm not sure there's anybody else on offense besides the quarterback at number 21.
That's about the time you see the guy looking down at his hands, you know, kind of like that movie, that recent movie about the kids playing football. How can you let me down? Where have you been?
Where have you been, Ham?
Oh, they were right in the midst. But I think what they're really doing, Charlie, is setting them up for later. They're going to take cracks down the field.
Sawyer, the return man, signals for the fair catch, and it's going to take a Cleveland bounce. This spins back and is going to go out around the 7-yard line. We've got a flag down.
Well, Johnny Thomas was down there trying to look back into the sun, back into the shade. He was about to fall down on himself, trying to be near the ball. And an illegal man downfield against Cleveland.
So they'll get to do it again.
Ineligible. Downfield on the kick. Number 51. 5 yards. Repeat 4th down.
Now you want to find out, if you're Belichick on the sideline for Cleveland, how good of a pooch, kick out of bounds guy your guy Tupa is. He's already done one right there, nailed him back inside the 10-yard line.
Can he do 2 in a row?
Well, I tell you, like I mentioned, Johnny Thomas was clean down the field. He's lined up on the near side as the gunner on the outside for the punt team. The outside guys will be the ones underneath the ball on this.
Good snap. Good kick. This could carry too far. He goes for the corner. Oh, he gets it.
Perfect.
Even better. 2-yard line. All right. 46 yards.
Job security, Charlie.
Yes.
Job security.
Crowd reaction. No score. Back in a moment. Cincinnati from their 2-yard line. To throw from the end zone. Pump fake, wants to go deep. Has a man in and out of his arms. Incomplete. At the 17-yard line, it was Darnay Scott. The intended receiver, Don Griffin, was there.
Well, we keep saying it's such a nice day, but I don't know, maybe the balls are frozen or something, because these guys are handling it like it's a bad weather game. Great protection for Blake in the end zone. Ball's a little bit behind Scott. That's inexcusable. You catch those balls, especially for your quarterback, when you're backed up, because he's got to have it. Because right now you're looking at man up on the outside and blitz Jeff Blake.
Blake now 0 for 3. And see if there's anything on the ground. There is nothing there. And, of course, operating right in front of the famous dog pound, Harold Green getting the call.
And that offensive line is something that they're going to have to address in Cincinnati by next year. Because remember, there's a gentleman out of Penn State that got hurt his rookie year by the name of Kajana Carter.
Oh, he's going to be awesome.
And I don't care how good he is, if he gets that kind of blocking up front, they can make a great back look average if they don't get better up front.
In Cincinnati, as you see, only 5 total yards. 8:21 in counting, time remaining, no score first quarter.
Watch for the block pass. They got 5 against them last time.
Pass is complete, and this will be the first down, then dropped out of bounds. Carl Pickens has a 17-yard reception, converting on 3rd down and 11. Oh, remember that play.
Oh, yeah, I mean, Pickens just working one-on-one against Don Griffin, an old teammate of mine from San Francisco, and the key there was twofold. 1, Blake got the time, and 2, Pickens got the room. But watch the passing lane coming out over the left guard and left tackle. See that space between those 2 guys that Blake could throw the ball? You can't block a pass if you form passing lanes for your quarterback. I don't care how tall or short he is.
And see if there's anything on the ground. Well, there's a couple of 3 yards, not much there. Now, this is a game of historical proportions from the standpoint. It is the end of an era for the Cleveland Browns, could well be. And as you know, there are Cleveland Brown fans all over the United States and all over the world, and our telecast is basically going to the state of Ohio. So this morning I set up an 800 number. So those of you that are Browns fans that are watching around the country, if you would call 1-800-400-JONES, clever, don't you like that? 1-800-400-JONES, and the operators are there, and they will write down, tell them where you're calling from, and the second half will give a report of everybody that's calling in. So everybody watching around the world. And this one is dropped right side. I think you're right. You were on the field, and you said it was much colder down there, so maybe that has an effect.
Well, it's got some effect. The wind is coming, as always, out of the end of this horseshoe here at Cleveland Stadium. But there's really no excuse. The sun's not in your eyes. You got a little bit of the breeze working off the lake, which if it's 32, it's probably, let's say 20 or 18 with the wind chill and whatnot. But this area is no big deal. And the Bengals have already dropped 3 of the first 5 passes Jeff Blake's thrown to him.
Third down. Blake has pressure. He is forced. One of the things you want to do in Browns is they want to push the pocket right into his face. They say he's not tall enough, but he really is about 6'1", 6'1 and a half. And they want to knock it down.
Well, watch the passing lanes where he wants to throw this. He's got to throw it between bodies and between arms, not into a defensive lineman's face. He hit Dan Footman right in the face with that one, and he really had nowhere to go. When you have a quarterback like Jeff Blake, who is about 6'1", you want to form the passing lanes, getting the bodies out of the way for your quarterback.
Pressure on Lee Johnson, barely gets it off. But it takes a Bengal roll. And then picked up on the hop by McCardle and out of bounds at around the 22-yard line. And so the Bengals with the first down and the 54-yard kick are basically out of trouble. Browns have the ball, no score. We're in the first quarter. We have no score. Cincinnati and Cleveland. Mixed emotions on the Cleveland Browns.
I don't think emotion plays much in the Cleveland Browns game plan right now, and hasn't for the last 8 or 9 weeks. They're completely flat.
Testaverde throws far side. And Michael Jackson. Nelson has his first reception of the ball game. Corey Sawyer had the coverage.
Now, Pepper Johnson brought up what I thought a very interesting thing, something that kind of clarified the mood here in Cleveland to him. He said, we've been introducing the offense, introducing the defense every week. And then they decided they were just going to start introducing the team because the players are getting tired of getting booed by the home crowd. And he goes, that told me where these players' heads were at. They were so worried about how the fans were going to boo them, how they were handling the situation. They were forgetting about football. That was not their top priority. Football is not the top priority to the Cleveland Browns right now.
Viner, the ball carrier, to the 31-yard line. He'll pick up about 4 on the play. Should be third down, a yard and a half to go for the first down. Viner now 5 carries. He's rushed for 17 yards. Artie Smith the defensive end for Cincinnati, makes the stop on the play.
Well, like you mentioned before in the last possession, if you get the total offense for the Cleveland Browns and the total offense for Ernest Biner so far in this game, about the same number. They featured him, have not got a ball outside.
Biner last week picking up only 11 yards against the Vikings on the ground, and now trying to pick up the first down. If he gets the mark, he's got it. And he does. First down.
And they're running to the strength of that offensive line, which is in the middle with Steve Everett, with Dahl working against Rucker. And that's where you should go for those short yards like that. They've got a big physical offensive line here. They should be able to get those kind of yards. You take a look there at Steve Everett, the center out of Michigan, laughingly referred to in a local, or laughingly by me and him, in a local magazine as a Renaissance man. He goes, well, you know, articles like that are great because I can mail them home to my family. My mom loves it, but don't buy that.
Here's Biner right side, cuts back, across the 35, 37-yard line. Tracy Walker, Keith Rucker there for the Cincinnati Bengals. And you're right, the Browns have decided, though, at least in the first half, they're just going to try and ground it out and pick up as much yardage as they can. Not a lot of excitement thus far.
Or imagination. You've got all kinds of weapons. And right now, if this is basically your basic shootout at the OK Corral, Cleveland's bringing out their best knife-wielding techniques in a gunfight.
Here comes the blitz. It's picked up. Maybe a yard, yard and a half again by Biner.
You know, if you want to play a time of possession type of game with Cincinnati, in my opinion, you're asking for trouble. If you do this, you better get touchdowns, because remember about the quick strike ability of the Cincinnati Bengals. They might only have 4 good plays on you in a game offensively. But those 4 plays might go for 220 yards and get 28 points out of them. No.
You're absolutely right. They're down and 3. Here's the shovel pass underneath. It is Biner. Biner works his way through all the way to Bengal territory. 12 yards. First down, 49-yard line of Cincinnati. Rory Sawyer with the tackle.
Well, there's a little imagination for you out of the Cleveland Browns with the shuffle pass. You know, this Cincinnati Bengals defense last week had their best game of the year. And right now they've got them guessing a little bit because they are out of character. They're not trying to throw the ball outside of their skill guys. They're going with the bludgeon defense, or bludgeoned offense in this case. And they've got Cincinnati back on their heels a little.
Biner now, 4 receptions, 19 yards receiving. Here's a play action fake, deep over the middle, double coverage, right on target. He nails Michael Jackson. And you remember, Jackson dropped the first one. Well, he comes back with a big catch here for 23 yards.
Well, we know something, Charlie. This ball, too, comes out of the shade, goes into the dark. He dropped the easy first one, right?
Yep.
Well, this is not an easy one. He is covered very closely. Vinny threads this ball in, so 0 for 1 on easy, 1 for 1 for hard early.
Remember what he said about the easy? He said, I start looking around to see where everybody is, what my moves are going to be, how far I'm going to go, and I forget the ball. And he did. Here's Ricky Powers. Powers is a free agent from Michigan. He's in his first year. He was activated, actually, for the ball game last week, and that's due to the fact that the Browns are simply banged up at running back. So he has his first carry of the day, and he's going to pick up a couple yards to the 23.
Well, I know the Cincinnati Bengals as a team were very excited to hear that Leroy Horde was on injured reserve. He has traditionally, since he's been here at Cleveland, just ripped up this Bengal offense.
Second down and 8. And here is Biner to the 20. It'll be 3rd down and 5. John Copeland with the tackle. Now, this is a drive that started back at the Cleveland 22-yard line, and it uses up a lot of time. Minute and a half left to go in the scoreless first quarter.
Well, here come the skill guys. Jackson, Risen, McCardle are in the ball game for the Cleveland Browns. This defense frustrated Eric Kramer of the Bears last week severely. In fact, they made Kramer of the Bears look like Kramer of Seinfeld for most of the game last week in Cincinnati.
3rd and 5. Here's the draw. Biner jumps to the outside. He's got the first down inside the 10. Nice running, 8-yard line. First down, goal to go. 12 yards on the play. And Corey Sawyer has been very active defensively for the Bengals, makes the tackle.
Well, if Corey Sawyer, Charlie, has his druthers, this is not the way he'd like to be active. This is a job they leave to the linebackers, to the Tovars and the Waller stats and the safeties like Walker, who you saw bounce off him. Corey Sawyer does not want to have to come up there, because when a cornerback gives up his body, he starts leaving parts of it on the field.
Viner already, total yards, has 59 yards. And the pass is incomplete. I'm not sure that Brian Kitchen could pick it up.
That's a penalty. Rico McDonald held Brian Kitchen. Late flag, but that's what it's going to be for.
Yeah, that's the reason he couldn't pick it up. He was fighting off the hole. Can we see that time of possession again?
Holding number 56 of the defense. Half the distance to the goal.
Half the distance to the goal line. Here's that time of possession. We just got it up and down in a hurry. Look at that. Cincinnati just over 3 minutes. Cleveland over 11 minutes already. 19 seconds left here in the first quarter, and we are scoreless, but the ball at the 4-yard line.
Well, like I said, if you're going to play time of possession, if you're going to play grinded out, methodical offense against this Cincinnati Bengals offense, you better get touchdowns here.
Viner, fighting for every yard, is going to go to the 1-yard line. He is truly having an impressive start.
Well, this is the area, too, this offense has struggled the most, down by the goal line. They've come away with field goals in some very crucial times for this Cleveland Browns team. They've got to blast it in.
First quarter, Viner has rushed for 43 yards. No score. Back in a moment. Second and goal, 1-yard line. Who do you need?
You need Jim Brown.
That's right.
Suit this guy up. You got scoring problems in this area of the field. There's a gentleman there that had never had problems scoring the ball. Never had a problem getting it into the end zone, but this team has.
Well, the way Ernest Viner has been going, you figure, but he comes out with a play action and a delay pass, and it is there for the score to Frank Hartley. And Hartley has his first touchdown of the year.
Well, you remember a couple plays ago, Brian Kitchen was held going to the right by Rico McDonald. Same play action fake to the left side. Steve Crosby and the coaches upstairs for Cleveland saw a weakness. Came back 2 plays later, and the weakness was still there.
So Vinny Testaverde, that is his 15th touchdown pass. Frank Hartley has his first touchdown reception of the year and only his 9th reception of the year. The extra point is good. And the Browns have scored as we open the second quarter. They're out in front by a score of 7-0. The reaction of Vinny Testaverde as we step aside. Back with the kickoff in a moment. Opening play, second quarter. Cleveland up 7-0. And Randy, here's the drive.
Well, I hope Frank Hartley saved that ball. I mean, it's not quite the Emmitt Smith touchdown collection. I mean, he's not going to open a shop back in his hometown selling his memorabilia, so he better hold on to that football.
Here is Jeff Hill on the return. Dribbles it, picks it up, slips and slides down at the 14-yard line. And here comes the flag in. 9 yards on the return. Johnny Thomas was there for the Cleveland Browns, and we'll check out the flag.
Tell you what, if you could throw it like that, Cincinnati ought to put a handle on that thing. Their guys can't hold on to the ball.
Here in the run back, illegal block from behind on the receiving team. Half a distance to the goal. First down.
Dave Shula facing the sideline. He was telling us a story, and it was also in the paper here, that the first time that he was here was when his dad was coaching at Baltimore. They came in, they were the favorites. He was 5 years old. It was a cold, bitter afternoon. Spent the whole time standing by the furnaces on the sideline trying to stay warm. They lost. He said he went in the locker room and says, the first time I've seen grown men cry. And he said, from that moment on, I always hated the Cleveland Browns. And there is an addendum to that story that we'll add in after this play. Here is the draw. Jumping to the outside is Harold Green. Green out to the 13-yard line. We're going to save that addendum because we're going to go to New York for an update. Greg?
All right, Charlie, in Detroit, we'll bring you up to date on the NFC's #1 offense. It belongs to the Lions. Scott Mitchell, his 29th touchdown pass of the year, a 23-yarder to Johnny Morton in the latter stages of the first quarter. The Lions lead the Jaguars 10-0. Charlie and Randy, back to you.
Charlie, the Lions buried their chances of going very far if they make the playoffs early in the year, because that team will not produce like that if it has to play outdoors in the playoffs.
Now back to the ground. Receivers can't hold on to it. So Cincinnati says, can we run with it? And Pepper Johnson says, no, you can't. Now to finish the story of Dave Shula, he came out to the stadium here yesterday, and as I mentioned, that story had been in the newspaper here, and he walked in the locker room, and the locker room attendant said, I read the story in the paper, said, and I remember that I was here.
61 is eligible, 61.
He said, you were here? I said, oh, yeah. I said, I was a locker room attendant 31 years ago.
It's that kind of place. He also told us, Charlie, he ran on the field some. So if you're looking for people here to run on the field and get samples of grass here at the stadium, there isn't any grass here at the stadium. No. That's green dirt.
Here is Blake slipping to the outside after a pump fake. He's going to come up short and will be stopped at the 16-yard line by Rob Burnett.
Well, they're getting excellent coverage down the field by the defense here. That's enabling the defensive line to put a squeeze on Blake. You can't get a pup-and-go action against a zone the way they're playing it on the outside. Burnett comes in with the sack, but Blake was running the whole way. He had nothing to do.
He's going to bring the chains out to check the measurement, then to make the decision. While they do this, quick reminder, if you're watching on satellite, Cleveland Browns fans, call us 1-800-400-JONES and let us know where you are, where you're watching this historic game. Could well be the last of the Cleveland Browns here at Cleveland Stadium. So there you see the call. They'll refuse the penalty. That'll make it 4th down, and that means that Cincinnati will be kicking. Oh, also, if you're outside of the country on satellite, you can call collect 619-454-1417. 619-454-1417. Second half, we'll let you know who all is watching around the world.
I don't know what that measurement was all about there, Charlie. I mean, it was clearly short. Here's the situation, though, for the Cincinnati Bengals. Do not kick this ball to Alexander. This is a classic setup for an opportunity for a return from the Cleveland Browns.
Alexander is the deep back. Now, Kennan McCardle is the up back about 10 yards in front of him.
That's for a short kick. I think Cleveland's going to come after this ball.
He almost got to him earlier. Lee Johnson kicking. Doesn't turn over, but is taken at the 38-yard line. Good coverage, slips a couple of tackles, cannot get around the corner. Ball pops loose, and they're still battling for it. Cincinnati says they have it. One official pointed one way, one the other.
It is Cincinnati ball,
It's going to be Cincinnati's ball. I love that classic when one comes up one way and one the other.
Can't be wrong.
No, you got it covered. All right, 46 yards on the kick. Eric Bieniemy recovers the fumble. Back in a moment.
Here comes the fumble by Alexander. Had a wall. The wall closed. Bracy Walker busts that ball loose. And watch the scramble. Wheeler was there. The whole group was there. Brady was there. One of those fractured flickers kind of fumble.
So a first down, play action fake. Buys all the time in the world. Deep. Great catch.
Troy Sadowski. Wow, did Sadowski get hit while he was in the air by Vashon Adams? What concentration. Rob Burnett should have had Blake.
It was Tony McGee.
Was it McGee?
Yeah.
Woo.
24 yards. Look at this.
Watch Burnett right here. Loses contain. That's what contain on a quarterback isn't. Blake throws this thing out, puts McGee up for grabs. Adams hits him early, and he still comes down with it.
Oh, great reception. McGee's 50th reception on the year.
That's the value of a real tight end to an offense.
Anything on the ground? Well, a little bit, not a lot. 12-yard line. Second down and 7. We talked about the Browns inside the 20, the red zone. What about the Bengals?
The Bengals are a little deceiving. As you see, they're just a tick over 50% inside the 20. The deal for David Shula's offense is they don't get yards in 5, 6, 7-yard spurts and little passes. Their touchdowns into the end zone come from the 30, 40, 50-yard line in.
Blake sets up, throws, end zone, knocked away. Good defensive play.
There's Deshaun Adams.
Deshaun Adams, the rookie free agent.
He's trying to get the dog pound down there, a little excited about what's going on. His timing so far has been absolutely perfect, getting there the same time as the ball.
Darnay Scott, the intended receiver. Blake has completed only 2 of 8 for 40 yards.
We saw Caldwell was there short in that little zone, but Adams made that great swiping motion with the ball.
Eric Bieniemy is the remaining back. He is there to block and moves over on the screen. Tipped, is it intercepted? No, incomplete. The Browns almost had the interception. That was Pepper Johnson. It was really a pleasure talking to him yesterday, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean he's one of the real true fire and brimstone kind of guys on this Cleveland Browns team. He got most of that playing with the LTs and the Carl Banks in New York and the Marshalls and guys like that when Belichick was the coordinator there, and he's got the kind of fire this entire team needs.
30-yard field goal attempt by Doug Pelfrey. Right into the dog zone. And he nails it. And Cincinnati is on the scoreboard. The Browns lead it 7-3. Back with the kickoff in a moment. The sentiments of the Cleveland Browns fans here. 7-3 ball game. Cleveland on top. And that means that Lee Johnson is going to kick it away with number 85 Derek Alexander and 87 Keenan McCardle as the return man. And McCardle takes it right out of Alexander's hands. He returns it across the 30 out to the 32-yard line. Cleveland with a first down and the ball at their own 32-yard line. Testaverde to throw. Flushed out of the pocket. And he runs a little pump fake. Not a bad run. He, of course, is timed by an hourglass.
Well, it's interesting.
But he makes a good move, and it has a big smile on his face. 9 yards.
Well, it's interesting, Charlie. The Cincinnati defense said the biggest difference between Testaverde and Zaire, the backup, is basically that Zaire can run and really brings that wiggle. But, you know, if you've been watching this quarterback Testaverde for very long, you saw him run like the Dickens in Tampa Bay, mostly for his life. But they designed plays for him to run down there. Don't be fooled. Vinny Testaverde can run with the ball. He'd just rather not.
2nd and 1, 4 wide receivers. Good protection downfield. Juggled, held on to. Yes. It'll be at the 50-yard line. And it's Andre Rison.
The love affair continues.
Yes.
Between Andre and the Browns backs.
It's not the love boat, it's the boo boat.
Right, I mean, Andre makes an easy one look tough and makes a tough one look easy on both those catches you just saw right there. And that's the reaction Andre's gotten from these fans based on the fact that he said he can't wait to get to Baltimore because of the way the fans have treated him.
First down, 50-yard line. Ernest Biner with a couple of good moves. He has really been active.
He's good on frozen dirt. He's found his form.
He has now rushed for 51 yards.
Yeah, I mean, why worry about AstroTurf and grass? Get this guy on frozen dirt. He can hop. He's making his imitation of one of the world's largest bunny rabbits there, hopping back and forth. But
well, that's a holiday season.
That's good stuff so far. 4 yards plus a carry.
42-yard line. 2nd down and a couple. Has a man. Testaverde hits him. Yes, has the catch at the 21-yard line. You can tell from the boos a gain of 20. It's number 80 once again, Andre Rison.
Well, that play is made by the play-action fake to Biner because the runs work so well. There's the fake. Top receiver was Andre Rison. Here's the kind of receiver Rison is. Low, inside, still gets it. Guy's not exactly what you call a character reference, but he can catch a football.
7 weeks ago against Cincinnati, he caught 7 for 173 yards. Here's Biner. Little head fake to the outside, comes back in, goes to the 16. There's another 5 yards for Biner.
And of course, you got people pointing both ways.
A fumble
well,
at
the Browns are pointing at the ground saying he was down, and the Bengals are pointing the other way saying we got the ball. I like the points at the ground better.
Well, at least because the officials aren't jumping in with any dexterity to pull it out. We'll take another look.
Watch where this ball comes loose, because it does come loose. There's Biner, and the ball's out. That's a fumble.
That is a fumble.
Without
Bring back
a
the
doubt.
instant replay.
Without a doubt, that is a fumble. Right there covering that ball, and right around the fumble again near the ball was Bracey Walker, number 27.
And here is Biner.
And there's a flag, and it's going to be holding.
Meanwhile, Biner is having a problem with his socks. And the dress patrol of the NFL will be on him if he doesn't keep them up.
Of the offense, 10 yards. Repeat, second down.
The fashion police will fine him.
That hold there against Tony Jones, the big left tackle for the Cleveland Browns. That's Bracey Walker, number 27. Been around the ball a couple times when it's been on the ground.
Injury timeout. We'll step aside. We'll be back in a moment. 7-3 Cleveland. You want to know what a stinger is? Left screen, number 27. Watch, and you will see.
He made contact with the face right there against Biner, and thus comes the stinger part. That's a little nerve sting down the arm.
Second down and 16. Going deep, has a man, and misses him. Threw over the wrong shoulder. Michael Jackson was looking to his right. The pass was to his left. We go to our right to New York.
All right, Charlie, thank you. And in Houston, rookie quarterback Steve McNair, getting his first start, unleashes a 34-yard touchdown pass to Haywood Jeffries. Add that to the field goal that the Oilers have on the board, and Houston leads the Jets 10-0 second quarter. Charlie?
I thank you, Greg. I think he's going to be a great one. The boos, of course, will give you the correction. It was Andre Rison, the intended receiver. Here's a screen. Middle screen, Biner. Slips a little bit. Now has his running shoes on and goes out of bounds. We mentioned about the stinger. What does it feel like?
All right, it's, I guess, the closest analogy you can make to getting a stinger and the nerves running down your arms as a result of getting hit in the head like that. Kind of like stick your finger in a light socket.
Oh, I don't want to do that.
That's about what it feels like.
What about like if you hit your crazy bone? Is it that feeling all the way up and down the arm?
That times 10.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That much? Ooh,
yeah,
okay.
It's not a pleasant experience, but it does tend to go away fairly quickly.
That's the good part. 37-yard field goal attempt by Matt Stover. And this is going to be there. Yes, 37 yards away. And Cleveland back on top by 7. Back to the kickoff in a moment. And we are underway. Taken to the 2-yard line. This is David Dunn on the return. Has the opening. He can turn it on. Little 360 move out across the 40, 45, 47-yard line. About 45 yards on the kickoff return. And Bashawn Adams finally got him. Ooh, good return.
Well, good return and good blocking up front. Something happens in the middle of this coverage team here. Watch Sutter, number 54. Right there on the right side of the screen. Gets absolutely boloed. That's what opens up that big hole for Dunn to get through. And I mean, it's just one of those momentum things. And you just talked about you're getting a new record, personal record for Matt Stover on field goals. That's the sad thing about this year offensively for Cleveland, is the highlight has been the kicker's production.
And here's a highlight for the Cincinnati Bengals, and that is Jeff Blake throwing. And he goes to Tony McGee, 16 yards. McGee now his second reception of the ball game. He has 51 on the year. And a gain of 40 yards on the play. We talked with Jeff Blake and asked about his young son, Trey, who now is 13 days old, had some surgery because of intestinal problems. Says he's doing just fine. And in particular, his mother-in-law, a very special lady, Carolyn, is staying there with his wife and with their other kid, and has really been a big help. And so his mind is at ease today as he comes out throwing here in this drive. He's a nice young man. I enjoyed visiting with him.
And very deservedly so. He's a Pro Bowler this year. I think he was a little surprised with the marquee guys, you know, the Elways, the Marinos, and Kellys and whatnot in the AFC. But, you know, like I told him last night, I said, I'm sorry, Jeff, but when you start throwing up, you know, get around the 30 number touchdown pass-wise in a season, You start throwing for the yards you do and making the big plays you do, people notice.
26 touchdown passes, over 3,000 yards. Game and a half to go in the season. Anything on the ground? No, there's nothing there. We got a flag on the ground. That's there. He said he had 2 goals when he came into the league, Pro Bowl and Super Bowl, and he got the first one.
Before the ball was snapped, false start. Number 86, 5 yards. It's still first down.
Darnay Scott called on the false start, so take the ball back out to the 28-yard line.
Yeah, well, Blake's got 1 goal down. The Super Bowl's a big one. You know, I was on 49er teams that beat the Bengals twice in Super Bowls when they had shots at getting it. I'm not sure if Jeff Blake might not have to play somewhere else to get a Super Bowl ring. I don't know if the Bengals got it in him.
I don't know. He takes a sack here. You know what he said? If we can get to 500 balls, then, you know, we just need a few pieces to fill out the rest of the puzzle.
And part of the pieces of the puzzle is protection up front from his offensive line. Watch Footman, 78. Now you see me, now you really see me. It should be now you see me, now you don't, because your line's in front of him, and the don't part never came into the equation, and Dan Footman gets himself another sack. And here's a guy that's had a catastrophic type knee injury. Talked about the rehab. He's come back. He's really wants to be an encouragement to William Floyd, his former Florida State teammate for the 49ers, who blew his out earlier this year.
When we talked, he said, "Why do you want to talk to me?" Then he sat down. We talked for about 20 minutes. And he talked about wanting just to he talked about the height of the quarterback, Blake. Now there's some exchanges here. Is this what you expected? Is this the fight? You said there's going to be one.
A little bit here, but what you're going to have, a lot of pushing and shoving from these offensive linemen, because, you know, Footman in this line want to push the offensive line.
Still second down.
A delay a game against Cincinnati, but, you know, Footman in this defensive line want to push the offensive line back into Blake's face. Yeah. And that's an ego thing, you know, because it's a misnomer calling offensive linemen offensive players. They're by nature very defensive. They give a lot and they hit very, very rarely in an aggressive mode. You're very much a defensive player. In this mode, the defensive linemen are on the offensive. They're trying to smash this offensive line, specifically the guards and center, back into Blake's face.
2nd and 27. Anything on the ground? Yes, there's a little bit. And that's Harold Green. Green gets a chunk of it back. And he picks up 11 yards on the play.
Well, if you're going to be aggressive, you're going to attack, you're going to try to smash the line back into Blake's face, well, let them go. Let them smash all they want. They run by the running back with the ball. It really doesn't matter. Footman runs by him.
61
runs by him.
61.
And let's take a look at what Footman does here. Joe Walter barely gets a breath on him, but it's still enough to keep him from making that tackle.
So it is 3rd and 17, 3 tight ends. So that means that Melvin Tuta, number 61, is an eligible receiver. Bengals have converted only 1 of 5 third down opportunities, and this one is going to be there. Yes. Excellent running after the catch by Jeff Hill. Hill, the free agent out of Purdue. He needed 17. He got it with 2 steps. 19 yards on the play, first down.
Inexcusable, Charlie. Pepper Johnson talked about, you know, it's not the 3rd and 1s and 3rd and 2s you give up that really make you mad. You get a team in 3rd and 16, 3rd and 17, and they lunge and lurch and just get enough for a first down. That makes you nuts, because an offense gets momentum, and momentum offensively usually means points.
First down, 12-yard line, headed into the dog pound over the middle. It is pulled in at the 5-yard line. Darnay Scott with the reception, and Pepper Johnson was all over him at the 5.
Well, remember that this is not a goal-to-goal situation. The Bengals can get a first down right around the 2-yard line, so that's a big reception over the middle of the ball. That sets up with 3 yards to go, 2 cracks for a first down, 5 yards for a touchdown.
Play action fake. Wait. Back edge of the end zone, and it is there for the score. And it is Carl Pickens who pulls it in.
No.
They say no?
Are they calling that incomplete?
Oh.
He's not arguing either. I mean, receivers are...
What official? I saw the hands go up.
Watch what happens here.
Right.
Blake, well, for one thing, Blake's got forever.
Oh, yeah.
They're playing the zone. Look at Pickens. He stops. Open. He throws it behind the linebacker, and clearly that ball hit the ground.
Good call. So it is 3rd down and 3, and he was wide open, too. Looking again over the middle. Tipped, incomplete. It is broken up. Stevan Moore breaks it up. Very good defensive play.
Oh, nice example there of red zone defense. Watch the linebackers and the defensive backs from the quarterback's perspective. There's Stephon Moore in the middle. 27, lurches out and gets it. I mean, you're playing zones, you're setting up in your picket fence, and they can't get it through the slots in the picket fence. Stephon Moore gets it.
22-yard field goal attempt by Doug Pelfrey, and it's blocked. And so what looked like a shining hour for the Bengals ends up a disaster. They come away with absolutely nothing. Was it Rob Burnett? Rob Burnett, number 90, who makes the block.
Well, Burnett blocks it, and Pepper Johnson gets a reception. Catches that. Almost wanted to fair catch that thing, but it's the 3rd block of the season for the Browns. Look at Burnett right through the gut. Just smothers that thing. And there's Pepper Johnson's catch.
And so Cleveland will now take over at their own 20-yard line. Cleveland up by 7, 10-3, 2:40 time remaining in the first half. Ernest Biner along the line. They string him out. He's going to lose a couple of yards on the play, maybe 3.
Well, so far the Browns have gotten away with their pound it out and be very conservative mode because Blake and the Bengals have not been able to take advantage when they've gotten down near the end zone. They are not getting those big plays offensively.
Steve Tovar, the middle linebacker from Ohio State, and an Ohio young man as he grew up, wanted to be play for the Browns, always a Browns fan. And he is, in a way, glad, but in a way saddened to be playing in this particular ball game, the last one here in the stadium.
Look at the club on the right hand, too. He played the beginning of the year with a cast on his left hand. Now it's on the right hand.
2-minute warning.
10-3 Cleveland. Back in a moment. Testaverde. He goes deep. Has a man open. Had 2 open, actually. A sliding reception by Michael Jackson. And in addition, Keenan McCardle was open deep over the middle, 30 yards. We've got a timeout. We'll step aside. Back in a moment.
Timeout. Cleveland, their first. It'll be a 40-second timeout.
Time to tighten up the defense. Little slip on the frozen dirt for the young man. Michael Jackson makes a nice adjustment to the ball. Now has 3 catches for 61 yards. Vinny off to a pretty good start, Charlie. 11 of 14, 118 yards and a touchdown.
50-yard line. 1 minute and 50 seconds time remaining in the first half. And America's team, the Cleveland Browns, and they certainly have been that over the last month and a half with the reaction around the world to the move. Now here's Pressey throwing this one away. Has a man over there. Oh, it's Andre Rison who just was lurking in the neighborhood. He didn't even look that way. He was just getting rid of it.
Well, I think there was a design to that, Charlie. Vinny knows where everybody is on the football field. Now, as he starts to go to the right, he gets flushed. And when he gets flushed, he knows that Andre's over there waiting. Now, watch Rison adjust to it, because this thing's got some hang time on it.
Yes, it does.
You know, Rison last week had 1 catch for 49 yards and disappeared. Right now, they're using him 3 catches for 42 yards.
And this is a man they're using, Biner. He cuts back. He's got the first down. Clock is moving, 1:35 and counting. Cleveland with 2 timeouts remaining in the first half.
Now, this is the offensive mix I think people expected to see more of out of the Cleveland Browns this year.
Cincinnati has a man down, injury timeout. It is John Copeland.
Cincinnati, anytime there's an injury inside of 2 minutes, it's a charged timeout.
And we have an excellent microphone on our referee Jerry Austin. Viner, 15 carries. He's rushed for 64 yards in the first half.
And he's done a lot of it, Charlie, with that bunny hop and that skip sideways he's doing, because there was nothing in the middle where that run was designed to go. Bad containment job by the outside of the Cleveland Browns defense, and just a good move by a very, very well thought of veteran here on this football team.
And a quick reminder of those Cleveland Browns fans watching around the world, the number to call to let us know where you are is 1-800-400-JONES, and make those calls within the next 5 or 10 minutes, because we're going to close down the phones at halftime, and we'll come back in the second half with a report from the people that we've heard from around the world.
You know, one thing you don't need when you have a real solid grass field, you don't need guys to clean out their cleats. And in the Cleveland offensive huddle right now, you've got these big plastic things that are on the board. See those right there?
Yeah.
This guy's job is to go out on the field and put those down, and everybody scrapes their feet on it.
Like golfers do.
And you're not trying to get the grass out from underneath your cleats. You're trying to get the mud out from underneath your cleats. You know, the amazing thing is, you talk about the technology of football, and the helmets change, and the pads, and the knee braces. The dirt cleaners at Cleveland Stadium are probably here when David Shula was 5 years old.
It is a first down for Cleveland. And here is Viner. Shut off inside. Slips one tackle. Second man gets him back to the line of scrimmage. Andre Collins is credited with the tackle.
Tony Jones, 66, the big left tackle, down holding a knee.
An injury timeout, and that will be a charge timeout.
Timeout, Cleveland, their second.
You saw Tony Jones on the sideline. He walked up and kind of bunny hopped off the field, limping on that leg. But very important here. I think for the Browns, they need to hear some boos.
You're big into bunnies.
Hey, if they hear, Charlie, they hear boos, that means Andre Rison's getting the ball.
That's right. And they feed. They feed everybody that we talk to in the Browns. They feed on the crowd here. Even when they get the boos, they want to turn them around and play better. Of course, they enjoy the cheers.
The ball was snapped, number 87. Ball start, 5 yards. It's still second down.
Keenan McCardle. Now a couple of injuries, a false start, and all of a sudden has the momentum gone out of this drive.
Well, it takes a lot of the enthusiasm out of the drive, and it really takes a lot of the imagination and mix out of a drive, too. When you back yourself up like this, you've got to throw the ball.
Second down, 16. And it is Viner who pulls it in, 24-yard line. He has been all world in the first half. He's pulled down by Roger Jones.
Well, I hope Ernest Viner got a lot of sleep this week, because he's definitely going to burn off some energy. Vinny and the offense into a hurry-up.
Outside, right flat. Listen to the boos. That means it's Andre Rison. Corey Sawyer chases him out. That move will stop the clock with 45 seconds left in the first half.
That was a nice job by Andre Rison getting those feet just inside that first down marker. Get the offense that first down. Now you want to look for a man matchup. You got Jackson, you got Rison, you have McCardle.
Cincinnati shows blitz. Now they come. Here's the pressure and gets it away to Viner down inside the field of play, so the clock continues to move. Audible call. No huddle.
A quick hitch up top would work the Rison.
Looking left, throwing over the middle, diving reception, touchdown. Keenan McCardle, 16 yards, and a great catch.
That's a good example there of taking advantage of what a defense is giving you. You had Michael Jackson on one side, Rison on the other. They were doing a little double coverage on the outsides. That opens up the middle for McCardle, coming from the left slot. Clear about now, dives about then, and gets himself 6.
Oh, yeah. And that is his 4th touchdown of the year. Stover to attempt the point after. And he's got it. Browns lead it 17-3.
Now, we showed you Keenan McCardle what he did. All Vinny Testaverde did on that drive, 6 of 6. for 76 yards and a touchdown on that drive.
A one-hop on the kickoff taken by one of the up-backs. It's Eric Bieniemy.
You know, and really on that scoring drive, Vinny and this offense have done everything that coming into this game, I think everyone expected out of Jeff Blake and the Cincinnati offense. Just being very efficient with the passing game, making things happen, having receivers make tough catches. And right now for Cincinnati, they haven't made much happen. And they haven't made many of the easy catches, much less catches, with only 125 yards total offense in the first half, compared to 237 for the Cleveland Browns.
Browns almost 2-1 to this point. Not quite, but almost. First down, 14 seconds left, second quarter. Four receivers going deep sideline, almost intercepted. It was right there for Stephon Moore, but he couldn't pull it in.
Oh, he knocked it down.
He was busy keeping his feet in bounds.
He knocked it down very well, Charlie.
Yes,
it's a defensive back's job to knock down passes, and here's a good job by a safety. He's looking at the thumbs, he's looking at the ball, and he's still looking at the ball.
That's right, and he had a smile in case the photographer was there.
It never stopped on the way through his hands.
It never did. Picked up speed as it ricocheted off of the thumb. Second down. Steps forward in the pocket, over the middle. Here's the first down, 49-yard line.
That's it.
Timeout. And not in time. 14 yards, the clock expires. It is halftime. Cleveland leads it 17-3.
Costas and Mike Ditka spending this Sunday afternoon in Cleveland along with Charlie Jones and Randy Cross, who are calling the game under ordinary circumstances in the past. The Battle of Ohio, the Bengals and the Browns, a December day, Browns up 17-3. This place would be rocking, but the cheers are very hollow today.
Not a very typical Cleveland crowd, because the fans are really, they want to be into the game, but I don't think emotionally they can get into the game. They know it's the last game here, and they just can't get into it. The loudest noises they've made have been booing Andre Rison every time he caught a pass, which is kind of unusual, believe me.
Now let's get the perspective of the Bengals president and general manager, Mike Brown. He's with our Jim Gray. Jim.
Thank you, Bob. We are in the box of Mike Brown, the son of Paul Brown. Your father created this franchise and was the founder. Is this a difficult day for you to be here?
Well, it's sad if this is the last day here. In my heart of hearts, I can't make myself believe that. Somehow, some way, I think NFL football is going to continue on here. I can't tell you that I know just what form that's going to be, but the city deserves it. It has a rich tradition, and I just don't think it's fair that it should end. I don't believe that it's going to end.
These fans have behaved very well up until this point here at halftime. The sadness that you see in the people, can you describe it for us?
Well, they feel it. They've been part of this franchise for generations, and it is a hurtful thing to them. I understand it because I have the same feeling.
Mike, thank you for joining us.
Okie doke.
Over to you, Bob.
Okay, Jim, the situation here in Cleveland has focused national attention on the issue of franchise free agency in the NFL. The league itself is certainly not blameless in all this, and those owners with consciences know that the worst of these situations border on extortion, and if it doesn't stop, the league's credibility will be shot. But for now, let's consider Art Modell. There's no doubt he's in debt. There's also no doubt most of this is his fault. Remember, he bought this franchise for $4 million in the early 60s. It's now worth at least $160 million. He owned it through all the NFL's boom days of the 70s and 80s. And even in today's changed economic climate, the salary cap is $37 million, while each NFL team is guaranteed $38 million a year from network television alone. That's before they sell a single ticket or bag of peanuts. Who protects the interests of fans if owners can't succeed or claim they can't succeed under circumstances as favorable as that? Those who know Art Modell believe him to be a decent man. Over the years, he has done many good and selfless things for this city. But all of that has been washed away in one monumentally ill-considered act. If Modell felt he couldn't get out from under, if he felt unappreciated by the city of Cleveland, the only honorable way out was to sell the team to local interests. Instead, in a fit of pique and desperation, a good man made a terrible mistake. Now for Art Modell, the final sad irony is this. He grew up in Brooklyn. He must remember the feelings of heartbreak and betrayal when the Dodgers were taken away. And now Art Modell, a guy from Brooklyn, has become his sport and his generation's Walter O'Malley.
Welcome back to Cleveland. This is Charlie Jones along with Randy Cross. The Cleveland Browns with an excellent first half. They had lost 6 games in a row, and now all of a sudden they are playing once again like a football team.
Well, they are. What the Cleveland Browns fans have seen is they've seen a very good game plan so far. It's worked out just perfectly, controlling the ball, going for big plays when they could get it, and offensively for Cincinnati, very, very poor execution. Vinny Testaverde is red hot right now, and this offense for Cleveland is doing what everybody expected them to do most of the season.
Can the Bengals stop this offense in the second half?
I think they can control the offense. The key is really Jeff Blake and Pickens and Darnay Scott. They have got to come to the party.
All right, now let's check out our Coors Light halftime stats.
And look at this and how it reflects. I mean, total yards all the way across the ball, time of possession, and what you really have to take a look at is the poise and the control that Vinny Testaverde has shown. They came out running the ball. When they have thrown the ball and decided to, Vinny Testaverde has really stepped up with the game. Look at this, 16 of 19, 2 touchdowns, lots of yards. Blake's having a slow start, but kind of Blake numbers. Not great percentage. He's getting the yards, but what the Cleveland defense has denied him is the big play.
So we get set to start the second half of the Cincinnati Bengals. Will have first opportunity on offense as they trail in the ball game by a score of 17-3. Matt Stover is going to kick it away with David Dunn, number 80, and Jeff Hill, number 84, the return men for Cincinnati. The sun has continued to shine this afternoon, particularly in the dog pound on the fans of the Cleveland Browns. And here is Hill. Hill on the return, and hits a reverse. And the reverse is to Eric Bieniemy, and Bieniemy out across the 35 to the 37-yard line. Bieniemy has been a great addition to the Bengals, 25 yards total on the return. You see him in this, you see him on special teams, and he's a good, tough-nosed football player, hard-nosed football player.
Oh, he really is. And what they gave a little bit of a spark and wiggle to the attack to get good things going here in the second half. First half, really the highlight passing-wise were the passes to McGee, the tight end. You know, it's always nice to have a good passing game to your tight end, but the Browns defense has shut down the big play on the outside.
Overthrown, incomplete. Going to the fullback, Jeff Coffin, a little swing into the left flat. Gerald Dixon picked him up, so it'll be second down and 10.
You know, really what this situation is developing into for Jeff Blake and David Shula, their head coach, is the fact that they're not getting a running game to go with that passing game down the field. And if they can't run, you'll get that push into Blake's face. You get the ball floating a little high, and when that ball starts floating high, you're going to see interceptions.
Well, they haven't really been able to establish a run the last 4 ball games. Knocked out of his hand. Flag is down. Scramble for the ball. And a little prancing.
That's Dan Footman again in there on the quarterback on Blake.
Holding is called against Cincinnati, and he said they wanted to put pressure right up the middle of the pocket, and they wanted to get in the quarterback's face.
Yeah, you don't take that penalty. You decline.
Holding number 76 of the offense. Penalty is declined. Third down.
So third down and long now for Cincinnati. Their first possession here in the second half.
You know,
number 61 is eligible. 61.
You talk about what's happening for Dave Shula's team here. I mean, remember, they're at 6-8. They are still not eliminated from the wild card race, and right now they're playing like the team that's moving.
Third down and 13. 4 wide receivers. It is hit, and then it is caught by a Cincinnati Bengal. That is Darnay Scott, who came back to make the play. That will end up losing some yardage. But once again, the Browns are able to get their hands up and deflect the ball.
Remember, hands up, get into the quarterback's face, and don't give him those passing lanes.
Guess what? That was Footman again.
Footman again. No passing lane for Blake. Ball's knocked up, and I mean, that's the best place to go with that ball right there for Darnay Scott. Is just out of bounds, out of harm's way. And Stephon Moore on the sideline grabbing that left hamstring.
So we have a momentary timeout, stopping the clock. 14:10. That is the time remaining in the third, so we're less than a minute into the second half.
Look, when you do something good, you got to go to the sideline like that. And when you're a defensive lineman, you expect explain how you did it. You saw him giving those, those little arm rip motions, and well, I had it the whole time. You get a little high five from your team, and he's having his best game of the year here in the last home game for the Cleveland Browns. I mean, he has brought it.
He was really fun to talk to, though. His first statement was, I don't know why you guys why you want to talk to me. And then we sat down, and it was like a continuing conversation. He said they wanted to collapse the pocket to get into the face of the quarterback, and they've been pretty successful.
Well, they really have, Charlie. And like I mentioned before, don't forget the wild card is still out there for the Bengals. I mean, and they have an opportunity to build on something if they can finish 8-8. There's the group coming into today's games.
Now, what they say is mathematical possibilities, but nobody will explain it.
Hey, I tell you what.
Explain the math.
No, Charlie, when you're bad, and Cincinnati's been bad with a couple back-to-back 3-13, teams, and you're in your 15th game of the season, and you got a shot, and they haven't told you you're definitely home for Christmas.
You like it.
If you're Dave Shule and the Bengals, you're excited for two reasons. You're not eliminated, and if you can finish at 8-8, you can tell the owner, Mr. Brown, we need just a few more dollars and a few more spots and more talent, and we can do better. If you let that die, you're opening yourself up for a whole lot of trouble as far as people being out of work.
Terrible catch. Short, taken by Ian McCardle at the 44-yard line. Cleveland with pretty good field position, only 30 yards on the punt. Backing him over.
If you let that die, you're opening yourself up for a whole lot of trouble as far as people being out of work.
Terrible catch. Short, taken by Ian McCardle at the 44-yard line. Cleveland with pretty good field position, only 30 yards on the punt. Backing him over. Testaverde, pump left, comes back right, and incomplete. Andre Rison, the intended receiver. Meanwhile, in the dog pound as he takes a shot.
Yeah, he took a good shot.
That's John Thompson, the spiritual leader of the dog pound. You saw for a moment. Now we'll go back to the replay.
Vinny takes a real nice little put down there. He gets to follow it the whole way and threw that one low and inside to Rison.
So it's 2nd down and 10. And back to the ground, and that means, of course, Ernest Biner. Back to the dog pound. This is the man he started it all, John Thompson. Big dog. So an end of an era and end of a big part of his life. This is the last game here in the stadium with the Cleveland Browns. He said, I'm going to keep the whole uniform. I'll put it on a mannequin. I'll put it down in the basement and
it better
pass
be
it all on to my big mannequin.
Yeah, I tell you what, he isn't putting that outfit on a regular store-bought mannequin. He's going to go to a big and tall man's shop for a mannequin.
Over the middle, pass is complete to Harold Bishop. Only his 14th reception of the year, and he picks up 17 yards. And the middle is wide open.
Well, the reason is, just like you saw in that touchdown to McCardle, they're concentrating on the outside so much, there is nobody, and I mean nobody, even thinking about covering him. I mean, Harold Bishop was he was lonely. He was a lonely tight end.
First down, 35-yard line. Here's Ricky Powers. Powers with his 2nd carry of the ball game. This one good for 9 yards. Andre Collins with the tackle.
Charlie, that offensive line, watch the surge up front. Tony Jones back in at left tackle, gets a nice block. Everett gets a nice block. I mean, they're taking things over right now. And they're attacking. And I mean, they're going right at Rucker 95.
2nd down and short. And here's Powers again, and he's going to pick up the first down to the 24-yard line. R.D. Smith makes the tackle for Cincinnati.
Well, they like that game plan so much at the beginning of the game, Charlie. They've come out here in the second half with the exact same idea. They're in here with at least 2 tight ends. Power running, which is the tight end on a first pass. But it's exactly the same thing. And just like when they started the first half, they didn't stop it. If they don't stop it, they're going to see a whole lot of running back.
And Ernest Biner now checks in as Powers comes out. And Biner play action fake. And Testaverde throws this one away, but he can do that, of course, when he's chased out of the pocket. It was Ricardo McDonald who was chasing him out of the pocket as Dave Shula looks on.
Well, McDonald had nothing to do with that play action fake to Viner.
He didn't buy any of it, did he?
He didn't buy that. See, but that's contained. That's maintaining your responsibility. Watch McDonald come from the left. If you collapse and you bite that thing, you give Vinny Testaverde all sorts of time to throw that ball. He doesn't do that.
2nd and 10. Five-step drop. Quick release, way under throw. Andre Rison, the intended receiver. The boos don't have to be to Testaverde. Here's a terrible throw.
Well, that's a little bit of mix. I mean, it's mostly for Andre.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're booing Andre, but the first thing Vinny did was, after he threw this ball, he pointed at himself.
My fault.
And he gets kind of a laugh out of Andre Rison because Rison runs this thing. He's wide open over there. It just takes an average throw. An average throw is a completion. A terrible throw gets your wide receiver booed.
3rd down and 10.
Life's not fair.
It never has been. Down the sideline, come back, and it's going to be incomplete.
Well, I mean, he almost like Vinny felt like he owed him one, so he had to try to throw one, and he almost threw that right into the arms of Andre Collins.
Yeah. You have a feeling that Rising's going to say, okay, go to the other side for a while.
Go away. Watch a quick roll here. He's looking at Andre the whole way. Now he's going to let it go, and it's one of those things you wish you had it on a string, because, I mean, how can you not see 55?
From the 32-yard line, 42-yard field goal attempt by Matt Stover. He is hit from 37. This would set a personal record for him. This would be his 27th of the year, and he's got it. From 47 yards away, the Browns add 3 more. As we step aside, they lead it 20-3 back with a kickoff. Mike Brown, the son of my friend Paul Brown, for whom the Cleveland Browns were named. He, of course, now the head of the Cincinnati Bengals, and Cincinnati with the return. Here is Hill out to the 20-yard line. And Sutter makes the tackle, 18 yards on the return. Michael Brown, well, that's official, but he's Mike to everybody. Wears the same kind of hat as his dad. His dad was quite a man. I really enjoyed his company. First time I ever played golf with him, of course, he started so many things. The messenger service was one, and he was always the coach. And we played golf, and he clubbed everybody in the foursome. This is a 7-iron. Hit it. Okay, yes, sir. We had a great time together.
You didn't question?
No, sir. You didn't question. Cincinnati from the 20. Out of the left flat. Pass is complete to Harold Green. And he's going to pick up the first down as we pick our way to New York for an update.
All right, Charlie, a couple of Buffalo turnovers have turned into Miami points after an interception. Dan Marino, 25 yards to Eric Green right down the middle. And with the point after, it's a 13-13 tie at Rich Stadium. Let's go back to Charlie and Randy.
Just as advertised. Good ball game.
Well, talk about a guy, people make fun of Miami not playing in the cold, but Eric Green, coming from Pittsburgh, has played a little cold weather.
Yeah. And this pass is too tough. By the way, those are the Browns fans that are watching on satellite, stop calling. The phone, stop calling, stop calling. We have the phones, they've just been going nonstop. Calls from New York, Mississippi, California, Florida, Alaska, Kentucky, Arizona, Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, Indiana, North Carolina, Oregon, Louisville, Washington, D.C., Colorado, Illinois, Montana, Arkansas, Wyoming, and more, and I'll give you the others. And the fax is still coming in. 2nd down. And it is intercepted. It is intercepted by Pepper Johnson. Pepper Johnson has his 2nd interception and a 22-yard return.
Charlie, Jeff Blake had 5 passes deflected or knocked down last time they played. Right now, he's had 4 passes deflected or knocked down. No passing lane troubles there. That ball is right on the money. It deflects out of Jeff Cothran's hands right into Pepper Johnson's. The heart and soul of this Cleveland Browns fire and defense is Pepper Johnson with a big play.
And at the 18-yard line of Cincinnati.
Remember the middle of the football field, Charlie. They've been making their living inside. Bengals are concerned about the wideouts. That meant the slot receiver or the tight end.
And they go back to the ground, and here is Biner. And those Cleveland Browns fans that are watching also in Connecticut, Delaware, Idaho, lots from West Virginia, Ohio, and Pittsburgh, Toronto, Ontario, a call from Okinawa, and that's just the first page, Raleigh, Denver, Melbourne, Florida, Sarasota, Space Coast, Wilmington, Fort Collins, Atlanta, Tennessee, Northridge, St. Louis, Savannah, Omaha. And we really appreciate everybody calling in, and so on, and there's more. There's more. And there's more to the offense of the Cleveland Browns. And they recall Ernest Biner. He just continues with the day, doesn't he?
Well, what it is there, Ernest Biner, is just if you don't stop it, it's more of the same. You know, if you liked it the first time, you're just absolutely going to love it the 37th time, because they're just going to keep giving it to you inside. And what that's done, that's softened up two areas. That softened up the inside for the run, where Biner's had 19 carries for 75 yards, and it softened up the inside of the pass defense.
Biner's next carry, by the way, will be his 20th. He has rushed for 19. Now they go to the air. Do they get in? No, not quite. Keenan McCardle is stopped by John Copeland.
And Charlie, guess where they settled Keenan McCardle, and Vinny Testaverde delivers them that ball? Right over the inside. And you define the inside from anything from where the tight end lines up and tackles inside. Right over the right tackle is where McCardle catches that ball and almost gets in for 6.
So it is first down and goal to go. And here is Biner with his 20th carry, and he is turned away. And so the Bengals turn him back. Or was that Ricky Powers? No, it's Biner.
Yeah, and Biner, watch what happens. You see him, he's kind of signaling to get out here. But, you know, watch what happens when he carries the ball. When he carried the ball here, watch the weight of his body and get back over his heels. Right there. He starts to make that cut.
73 is eligible also. 73.
He starts to make that cut. The weight gets over on his heels. By the time the weight gets on his heels, the defense catches him.
Defensive left tackle, 280-pound Tim Goad is the fullback. And Biner behind him. He's going to be pushed away again. And he is turned back for the second time.
Boy, they're just getting no push on that left side. And once again, Biner is not going in with that forward thrust, that body lean, that when there's nothing there can help you to create things.
Brett Wallerstadt leading the Bengal defense.
Now watch the forward lean. He's got the ball, but look how high he is.
Yes.
There's no forward lean there. There's no attack in that run. He's not getting great blocking, but they're going to stop you every time that way.
It's going to be third down and 1, and the Browns take a timeout. We'll be back in a moment. As we come back to Cleveland Stadium, 7:10 time remaining, third quarter. It'll be third down and 1. The ball still just inside the 1-yard line, as the first 2 thrusts by the Cleveland Browns from this spot have been turned away by the Cincinnati Bengals.
Well, they're trying to get that last couple of shovels of dirt on the Cincinnati Bengals here today, but they just can't quite get it in there. This is pure push and run.
And it may be a quarterback sneak here. No, he's going to throw. Sets up, fires, and it's knocked away. Roger Jones makes the play. McCardle, the intended receiver.
What?
So 3 times Cincinnati turns Cleveland back, and they'll go with a field goal attempt.
Give me a break. What is this? You got about a yard to go. You got a big physical offensive line. You come out in a spread and you throw it. That's bad. No, that's not bad. That's terrible. That's terrible. You got 3 cracks. Take that extra crack. You're up 17. Take 2 cracks. Go on 4th down, but get 6.
19-yard field goal attempt is good for 3. So Matt Stover now is 3 for 3. And the Browns lead it 23-3. You may have noticed a couple of plays ago that Biner was signaling to the sideline. He lost a contact. And now he either has probably just has a backup.
There it is right there. It's on his finger.
Yeah.
He's
Well,
trying to
yeah.
figure, and then nothing frustrates you more.
Oh, those soft lenses.
Yeah, what are the chances of getting dirt on a soft lens on a sideline during a football? Pretty good. You're getting some dirt in your eye. Well, you know, contact was one thing the Cleveland Browns didn't have there. Not very good contact. And I thought they also had terrible play calling. I think you go on third, you go on fourth if you have to.
And it was all set up, of course, by Pepper Johnson's interception. Here is Hill on the return for the Bengals, and he is decked by Ed Sutter. 17 yards on the return.
Yeah, that's right. I get to put the next $20 million up.
That's right. Here's a screen right side. Pass is complete to James Joseph. Larry Webster with the tackle for Cleveland.
Got a Brown down. That's Dan Footman, who's played so good today.
He really has, hasn't he?
Well, watch the end of this play as Joseph comes out of the backfield for this toss. Footman reacts very well to the screen, catches it from the backside. Where does he land? See, right there, Joseph lands right on Dan Footman's stomach.
That's like an aircraft carrier. Kabloom. We'll step aside. Back in a moment. The injured player for the Cleveland Browns is number 79. That's Larry Webster, not number 78. Webster from Maryland, 6'5", a 288-pounder in his fourth year. And looks as if he's going to recover all right and be back in the ballgame. So with just over 6.5 left to go here in the third quarter, and the Browns up by 20 points, 23-3. Cincinnati just trying to get some semblance of an offense working here in the second half, and it is Harold Green. Dana Hall with the tackle for Cleveland.
You know, I talked about the running game that wasn't there for Cincinnati, and they're either running the ball or making the short pass work as the run right now. And this is what they need. You know, Green didn't get off to a very good start. Pepper Johnson told us, you know, you want to stop Green early, because the Green you stop early is the Green you really want to see. If you let Green get on a roll, you really don't like what you see, because he's a big running back.
Play action fake on first down. Now going deep, great arm, but overthrowing into coverage, and it'll be incomplete. Darnay Scott, the intended receiver. Boy, Blake can really unload it, can't he?
Well, he can bring it. He throws that kind of rainbow pass that drops out of the sky straight down. But look at the coverage job done down the field by Cleveland. And that's what Blake's been looking at most of this game. They are not going to give him that stuff down the field. They're going to make him go to the stuff underneath. And the stuff underneath is what they were dropping early.
Cleveland Stadium, of course, so many great professional football memories here. This young man's father, Don Shula, played for Paul Brown here. He and Carl Tassett were rookies at the same time, and Paul Brown never could tell them apart, and Shula got injured. And Paul Brown went out and says, Tassett, how are you? How are you doing? And Don Shula says, Shula, coach. I'm Shula.
Yeah, it's a tough thing for Dave Shula to sort of go through. You talk about his dad, you know, all the criticism he's been under right now in Cincinnati. The articles about fire Dave Shula and the poll. They've been kind of like the Poll family, because they're doing polls on both the dad and the son. The polls say both guys should be fired. And you know, Dave Shula made the comment to us, which I think is very true. He says, you don't mind basic criticism about your business, but criticism, especially the kind that his dad was getting.
The personal.
Our personal.
There's no place for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the nature of the business.
That's right.
You know, there's guys that have said a long time that, you know, owners, like you're looking at Mike Brown there in Cincinnati, and his dad, Paul Brown, found out here there's two kind of coaches in the NFL. There are the coaches that have been fired and coaches that are going to be fired.
Second down and 10. Far side, pass is dropped. They're going to rule it in. No, they're going to rule it complete, I believe, on the sideline. Speaking of Don Shula, let's go to New York for an update on his game.
All right, Charlie, Don's not real pleased right now at Buffalo. Jim Kelly from 11 yards out finds Thurman Thomas alone in the end zone on 3rd and goal. 13-13 tie is broken. The Bills have grabbed the lead. They've gone to the fourth quarter. The Bills 20, Miami 13. Charlie?
Charlie, can you believe the poor Buffalo Bills? Thurman Thomas couldn't run with a bad hamstring, got 120 last week. Poor Jim Kelly couldn't throw with a bad shoulder. He had 4 touchdowns last week.
Right, yeah. And Marv Levy has to have major surgery, and he's back, and the Bills are back again. There's no question. This is Harold Green. Don Griffin was there for the defense.
And he's starting to run like that Harold Green that Pepper Johnson says you don't want to see. And this is the part of the field right here. You're talking about fourth down at about 2 yards, yard and a half. I think you go right here.
I think so. I think you're right.
You go at it. You bring in whoever you need to bring in, but a guy that can be very helpful here for Dave Shula is Eric Bieniemy. Bieniemy is a small, quick, squirting runner, and he's also a very good receiver.
And Bieniemy is in the game. This is the option, and the pitch, and fumbled and dribbled, and then across and out of bounds. Cleveland says that they recovered it. It was Eric Bieniemy, former Colorado quarterback like Slash Stewart of Pittsburgh.
Remember, that ball went out of bounds past the first down marker, but when you fumble the ball forwards out of bounds, the ball is marked back where it is fumbled. Never got possession of that ball. See that? He's past the first down, but you can't fumble a ball forward like that and pick up that kind of yardage.
And so the Browns hold, and they take over on downs. And that is the discussion that is going on. And Cleveland Stadium, again, just for a little sidebar, is that there's so many memories involved with Paul Brown in the stadium, and now we may have a reversal.
Well, he never had possession, Charlie. He never had possession of that ball to fumble, so it was never a fumble.
And you're going to say it was a lateral that was booted?
A muff? A muff?
A muff? That's right. And that is the discussion.
And you can tell by body language the Browns don't like it.
No. Now we're going to double check it. And Belichick is going to...
Well, I'd get away from that sideline because you're sure not going to get an impartial opinion there. Blake...
There's a lateral that's muffed.
Flips that out to that former Colorado quarterback you talked about, but that flip...
Now, what's the ball here?
It was never,
it's
ever...
Out of bounds. Okay.
Yeah, it's out of bounds, and it's past the first down marker, but it was never in the possession of Bieniemy. That ball came off him and was knocked forward by his momentum. It was nothing intentional.
Paul Widener with the headlines where it was down checking it right on top of that play, and now the officials are gathering again. And there's another conference. And a couple of explanations. And now the only thing they're really...
Fourth down play, if you had a fumble, then if it went forward, you bring it back. However, this was a backward pass. When the backward pass goes out of bounds, it belongs to that team at the spot where it went out of bounds. Therefore, they made the line to gain. First down, Cincinnati.
That is a good call. That is a good call. And one of the reasons, and we criticize the officials for taking so much time in conferences, but this time it pays off with the correct call.
Right. It is not a forward lateral.
No.
It is a backward lateral.
It's a backward pass.
And it was never possession.
That's right.
That's why when I first said if it's possession, you can't fumble it forward. Well, there was never possession involved.
No, and Belichick knows that rule. And so now they're setting the chains and getting it all squared away. And of course, he's going to disagree, but he's going to lose that argument. But still, he leads by 20 points, 23-3. With 4:43 left to go, we're in the third quarter.
Well, Jeff Blake and the Bengals need a big play right now. They need a big shot into the end zone to have any chance of getting into this game.
Now, after standing around, the defense standing around, milling around, is this a good time to try and hit them deep?
Anytime's a good time for these guys. They love going downtown. Bruce Coslet, their coordinator, loves calling the long ball.
They come back underneath. Good defensive play. And that is Mike Caldwell dropping James Joseph. We'll check out the ticker. There's that Buffalo-Miami score that we were talking about. Well, Philadelphia's coming back on Arizona now. Carolina's coming back on Atlanta.
Remember that first game between Atlanta and Carolina went overtime before Atlanta could beat them.
Look at Detroit.
I tell you,
they play in December, don't they? They just fool around and they play.
They play indoors in December real well.
That's right.
They're like Minnesota. They're completely different teams since they built those boxes at their place.
Now going deep, double coverage, and the intended receiver was Pickens, and he went up too soon. He really mistimed his lead, didn't he?
Yeah, he really
do that often.
Now, it's unusual. Remember, Pickens, former high jumper at Tennessee, 7-foot type high jumper, just missed times that ball would not quite drop. And remember, the wind is coming from right to left. The wind held that thing up a little bit, I think, and held it up enough for him to mistime that jump.
Good catch. Good catch by you. Third down opportunities. Well, what have they done? Only 2 of 9. And this is a tough one. This is third down and 6.
Well, they've made third 17.
They'll try and do it on the ground. And they've got it. And guess who gets it? It's Eric Bieniemy, who figured a moment ago in the backward pass in the muff out of bounds. And he rambles for 12 yards.
Much like we talked about the combination type runners, Harold Green, big and physical. Eric Bieniemy, more of a small speed squirt guy that can just put on those little bursts of speed like that, and that's what he did. Cut to his right, burst back for the first down.
Dana Hall with the tackle, 38-yard line. First down. Quick out, right flat. Little spin move. That's David Dunn, the rookie from Fresno State, taken in the 5th round of the draft, and Dana Hall was there again. Dana Hall had a pretty good ball game last week, too.
Well, he did. He had an interception. He filled up well, had some good hits, and we haven't seen much of him, to be honest with you, because they really have done such an effective job in that defensive backfield of stopping down this long passing game.
34-yard line of the Browns.
If you're by nature a deep safety, a center fielder, it's always a good sign the less you're on TV.
Unless mother's watching, of course. Looking into the right flat, coming back over the middle, and then broke it up. They'll call pass interference.
Yeah, Caldwell had him around the back.
Mike Caldwell. Tony McGee, the intended receiver. Here's Jerry Austin.
Pass interference, number 56 of the defense. First down.
I always love it.
They're never guilty.
Of course not.
Defensive players are never guilty. Watch, there's McGee right in the middle of the screen. There's Caldwell. It's not the left hand, folks. Don't be fooled by that look. It's the right hand wrapped around his waist before he got around him that was called for the interference.
It's like Law and Order. The first time they catch him, the second half, they spend half an hour arguing the case.
You always give the official that old line. You're going to believe me or your lying eyes?
First down. And to the air again. Once you set up a screen, then he's going to throw it away. Eric Bieniemy, and he was close enough so that he's not going to be called for grounding it. But the Cleveland Browns infiltrated all of the screen. Whoa.
Yeah, well, Burnett got to Blake that time. Now watch where Blake is. Is he inside the tackles? That's a straight drop back. Now he's scrambled out. See, he's outside the hash marks. Now he's outside the tackle. Now he can throw the ball away. Belichick was trying to sell the fact that that was a penalty. That was not grounding. He was outside the tackle.
Well, Bieniemy was over there, too. And it was part of that screen. You couldn't hardly see it. This is the 12th play of the drive. But that's a good thing to always remember. Once you get outside the hashes, you can get away with murder. Play action fake up the middle. Doesn't bother anybody. Here comes Blake up the middle. He's going to bother him. He's learning to slide. Oh, he needs a mark here, and I don't know if he's going to get it or not.
I think he's going to be just a little short. Yeah. But I tell you what, he saved his physical well-being.
Yes, he did.
It's where you start your slide, though, Charlie. It's not where you end up.
It's where the hip is, right?
Yeah.
When the hip goes down, where's the ball?
Watch where he goes down. The first place it contacts the ground is where the spot should be. Now watch what comes above his head right about here. That's a very good reason to get down on the ground, because you got a DB coming in to try to take your head off, and Don Griffin.
Third down, yard and a half, maybe 2, and a stumble on the handoff, and that was Eric Bieniemy who lost his footing. He's going to come up short. It'll be fourth down, maybe a foot and a half, something like that. And so they obviously will go for it here.
Oh, he stumbled right into the back of the legs of the offensive line. Watch the right side with Kalis and Walker. Joe Walter, 63, the right tackle. See him bent back there in the middle? Ouch. No surprise here. They did it around the 40-yard line. 4th down, they're going for it.
Oh, sure. Melvin Tootin comes in. Harold Green comes in. And we've got time call. Cleveland stops the clock.
Their second.
They take a timeout.
They had to take a timeout, Charlie, because the play clock had gotten down to 1 second. Blake saw that and called the timeout.
But they pointed to Cleveland. They pointed to Cleveland. Now, they may have been against Cincinnati. So we'll double check that to make sure. I thought perhaps that they felt they had the wrong
personnel in
the game for a 4th down attempt and not a field goal attempt.
You saw Pepper Johnson there talking to Belichick and Rick Venturi, the defensive coach.
Yeah, Cleveland did call it.
That was a Cleveland timeout there. That's very curious because Blake was about to run out of time.
Yeah. So we have 54 seconds left to go in the third. Browns up by a score of 23-3. As you see, Cleveland now with only 1 timeout remaining. The Bengals have 2 left in the ball game. We, of course, still have 54 seconds plus the 4th quarter. And next week the Browns are at Jacksonville to wrap up the season, and the Cincinnati Bengals will return home to host the Miami Vikings.
This is
Minnesota Vikings.
This is as important as it gets for Cincinnati. They score here with their big play ability. They are in the ball game.
Well, they need the first down here though to be in it. And they're throwing 4th and 1, and it is incomplete. I don't understand that call.
That's
I know
incredible.
that you've been struggling with your running game.
Yeah, but I don't care how bad you're struggling. I mean, that is just not a very good play call. Because everybody is completely covered. There's nowhere to go. Antonio Langham playing with that banged-up shoulder. Watch Green. Do something to the running back. Let your running... There's nowhere to go here. You know, Cleveland called that pass down by the goal line. You know, there's no-brainers and there's no-brainers. No-brainers are easy decisions. No-brainers sometimes are what were you using?
Well, we've had a
fair
no-brainer brain.
No-brainer B.
Does the coordinator need a brain? 20-yard line, so the Browns take over on down. And you have a feeling that Blake was not any more thrilled with that call than we were.
Well, there's Kenny Anderson, the quarterback's coach for the Cincinnati Bengals. Constant communication there upstairs with Bruce Coslett, the offensive coordinator. And that's huge for this Bengal team that, remember, is still not mathematically eliminated from the wild card. But they're getting close right here.
Ernest Biner's last 4 carries, he's been shut down for no yardage, play action fake, and then coming back to the tight end over the middle. And here is Frank Hartley, who has a touchdown in the ball game. He rambled for 21 yards, 6'2", 268 pounds. First down into the quarter. We'll be back after these messages from your local station.
The Cleveland fans come to the Municipal Stadium today. They're not ripping the tickets. They're pressing them and embossing them with the date. 12/17/95. So everyone that comes to the game has a little keepsake and can actually say they were there.
A memento of history. Pass is low, but it is pulled in. And it's Keenan McCardle who makes the play for Cleveland. And the Browns have a player down. We have an injury timeout. This will not be a charged timeout. But it does stop the clock with 14 minutes and 50 seconds. As Steve Everett, the center, has been bothered by a hamstring. In fact, was inactive last week. And Vinny comes to the sideline to talk things over. We're going to step aside. We'll be back in a moment. And this could well be the last look at the dog pound.
And thank goodness in some cases. Some looks...
oh, yes.
Yes.
Nothing in there. Nothing there for his minor. Copeland stops him. It'll be third down.
You know, as a guy that grew up on the West Coast, I never, ever understood whatever possessed a person to get in cold weather and take off their shirt.
Well, perhaps I could explain it this way. There is a big a big construction, about 6 feet by 6 feet of a doghouse that it takes 8 people to bring in, but only 2 to take out because the keg is inside of it. And it's heavy coming in and light going out. Perhaps that unravels part of the mystery. Here's Andre Rison. And he's going to pick up the first down as the Browns convert on a 3rd down opportunity. Corey Sawyer. And Rison, he thrives on it. He thrives on it.
Coming into this game, Charlie, Cincinnati was very concerned with the running game of Cleveland. They haven't stopped the running game. When you don't do that, you open up the other things. But Cleveland so far against Cincinnati this year is averaging 138 yards rushing. Against the rest of the league, 72 yards a game. So that tells you why they're so worried.
Yeah. That's a 2-to-1 disparity. And here is Ernest Biner. He got off to that great start in the first half and now has 80 yards and 24 carries. It looked like it was a slam dunk for 100 yards, but he really has been struggling here in the second half.
You know,
only 16 yards in the second half.
Wally Williams went to center for one play. Steve Everett's back in, but you can see jumble around the line any way you want. But this Cleveland offense has got its proverbial act together today.
Yeah. Cleveland leading by a score of 23-3. 12:48, taking the countdown. Time remaining, what could well be the last game ever here at Cleveland Stadium. Ernest Biner again. And his struggle continues. Well, they have at least figured out his moves in the second half. It's going to be 3rd down and 6.
Yeah, it is amazing right now what this Cleveland offense has looked like for 3/4 of this football game compared to what they looked like and what we saw last week in Minnesota and what we've seen on tapes. It's like 2 different teams.
Biner lost a yard. 9 carries, only 15 yards in the second half. They'll be throwing here. Testaverde sends 5 receivers out. And it is Andre Rison. And Rison catches it at about the 30. Adds 7 more at the end of the play. Encourages the boos. Picks up a total of 16. We'll give you a run on his totals in the ball game because he's had a lot of boos. 6 receptions, 73 yards.
They can boo all they want. Last time he had a big game against the Bengals when Eric Zier was a quarterback for the Browns. And today, so far in the last home game of the season, or maybe ever for Cleveland, he is finally hooking up aggressively with Vinny Testaverde.
And here is Biner. He scoots through, picks up 4 or 5 yards. But Walderstadt making the tackle. And this is a ball club that the last 6 weeks, last 6 games over the last 6 weeks, the official announcement was 5 games ago, and they really, since the announcement of the move to Baltimore, have not played well at all, but they have played well here.
Well, you know, they showed this offense earlier in the year. This is the kind of offensive production that
That's the way they started the season.
Well, it's
right?
what made people think this is a Super Bowl team. That and a defense that only gave up 204 points last year. This offense has been totally absent.
Biner jumping to the outside. Kimo von Oelhoffen making the tackle.
And you talked about that move. We're talking about the last 6 games since November 6th, since that announcement. 0-6, can't score points, give up a whole bunch, and look at that, a 20 turnover difference in 6 weeks. I mean, that's not only just poor, lackluster performance, that's very, very bad concentration on the part of the players. I mean, it's inexcusable as far as I'm concerned. You can't use this move and everything else as an excuse when you're playing this bad.
3rd down and 3. End zone, and it is incomplete.
But like we keep saying, Charlie, it's a different team. And, you know, Vinny throws the ball to McCardle, gets a little high. He's begging for a penalty, but you start getting on this kind of a roll and things are working well effectively. You think you can make things happen. It has not happened for Bill Belichick's team this year.
Matt Stover has made things happen in this ball game. He is 3 for 3. He now has a total of 28 field goals on the year. This would be his 29th. This is on a personal high. He's already passed that mark. And this is from the 25, an attempt of 35 yards. And he has got it from 35 yards away. Stover, 404, 26-3 Brown. back for the kickoff. Cleveland has scored on its last 6 possessions. 2 touchdowns and 4 field goals.
And they're under the towel, Andre Rison.
He's hiding from his fans.
You can't hear the boos as well when you got a towel over your head if you stick enough of it in your ears.
But like you said, he doesn't care as long as he catches them. 6-yard line. Here is Jeff Hill on the return. Pretty good return across the 30, out to around the 32-yard line. Showdown. So check your local listings for the game in your area. Good reception, reaching up and pulling it down is 6'2" Carl Pickens, and he has 12 yards and a first down for the Cincinnati Bengals over Don Griffin, who was covering him.
Well, really, that's 2 guys right there. Now watch Pickens attack the ball. Last week I was talking about Chris Carter's a guy that attacks the ball. Right there, Pickens actually went after the ball, never gave Griffin a chance to bat that thing away because the ball never got near his body.
3-step drop, little swing, right side. Pretty good reception by James Joseph. He's going to end up with 5 or 6.
They had Joseph
They punish him, don't they?
They had him all stood up, ready to go, and he comes through, and they fall down. Watch what happens. Look at Langham. He's got him stood up. Joseph, open him up, set him up for Hall. Hall got a lot more Langham, I think, than he got Joseph there, and Joseph's the one that goes forward.
Yeah, and he also picked up a block on another Brown that was coming to put him away. 2nd and 5. Low throw, incomplete, into double coverage. And another Brown is down. No, he just slow getting up. They're colliding with each other a lot today, aren't they?
Well, and this is the kind of weather in this type of a location. You remember, this stadium is right on a lake, so it's kind of a cold, wet, damp air.
Yes.
Hits hurt more here. I mean, you can get hit hard indoors and get hit just as hard out here. It hurts more because I think a hit indoors only hurts your flesh. When it's cold, it hurts your bones.
Deep over the middle again, attacking the ball. Here's Pickens. He turns, 15, 10, and is going to be caught at the 5-yard line by Dana Hall. 47 yards on the play. Carl Pickens from Jeff Blake.
And what we saw there is exactly what killed the Cleveland defense last week. The yards after the catch. Pickens catches the ball, and then he is gone. That is not rallying to the ball. That's not good basic defense, but Pickens so far today, only 4 catches for 86 yards, and comes out of the ground there holding that left wrist.
They spotted at the 40-yard line where it's first down and goal to go, with Bieniemy and Joseph the running back. Play clock running down. Here is Bieniemy slipping a tackle. He's going to lose a yard.
Nice play right there by Walker.
Larry Webster was the first Brown to get to it.
Yeah, Webster gets through. Watch him get through the line of scrimmage right here. From the backside, comes clean through that gap. That's just a good aggressive arm rip-through move.
Yeah, Pickens is okay. He's back in the lineup.
And what he adds, really, especially when he's out wide like that, is that lofting high pass he can go up after.
2nd down, goal to go. Throwing it back right at the goal line and not in. It is Pickens who caught it, and he was covered immediately by Vashon Adams.
Well, they tried to hide him coming across. Look at him come in motion. Then he stops. Then he comes behind the linebackers, underneath the defensive backs. Vashon Adams is right on him. Dana Hall puts on the hit and saves the points.
And they're working on Pickens.
Remember, he got up real slow, holding that left wrist earlier on that long pass play.
You have the feeling, though, this is a little bit more than a wrist as he kind of lays back for a moment. Starts to get up. They said, no, just wait a minute. And we will as we step aside. Back in a moment. 7 minutes and 9 seconds. That is the time remaining. And they're still working on Carl Pickens. I mentioned a couple of times, and I know that those of you that have been here, that have watched games, or the Browns fans around the world that have been watching today, there's so many memories that go back. And one that comes to my mind immediately is that the name Taxi Squad came from here. because when the Browns were formed immediately after the war, Mickey McBride was one of the owners, and he also owned the cab company here in Cleveland. And so when players couldn't quite make the team, then he'd have to go drive cabs around town. And then if somebody got hurt, he needed them, then they'd call him in and say, okay, now you can stop driving and you can come play. And that's where Taxi Squad came.
Well, that's hopefully what they hope for, is that these fans are not left with just their memories. Yeah, I talked to Kenny Anderson earlier today. He said back when Paul Brown was coaching the Bengals, he used to make the team come in here and look around and walk them around the field, because he'd always tell them that it was a cavernous stadium, as he referred to it as. And there's Kenny Anderson. He said, especially the young guys, he goes, this place when it's full and it's rocking, I don't want you to use an excuse that the stadium and the crowd affected you.
And here's Pickens again. The crowd, 55,875, with over 10,000 no-shows, and that's a pretty good crowd. They expected more no-shows, and we'll take another look.
Now watch Pickens come in. You saw Dana Hall comes right in there, catches him on the left shoulder side of the head.
61 is eligible, number 61.
Melvin Tootin again will be an eligible receiver. He comes in as the third tight end, and it's going to be third down.
Well, Melvin Tootin's already fulfilled every offensive lineman's dream. He's got a touchdown.
From the 1-yard line. On the option, there's the pitch. It is behind Bieniemy. This time he hangs on to it, and he scores.
Oh, I'll tell you what, that is a wonderful play by Bieniemy, because Blake coming down the line is obviously a little out of practice with his pitching ability to the backside to his halfback. Watch it right here. Deshaun Adams plays it perfectly. Talk about some hands by Bieniemy, and then maintaining your momentum forward as you're twisting sideways to catch the ball. That's just a great effort by Bieniemy.
And the extra point attempt by Pelfrey. High snap, he pulls it down, it is up, and it is good. And Cincinnati with their first touchdown in the ball game. As we take another look, we'll step aside. 26-10. Browns lead, a juggling act by Eric Bieniemy. Cincinnati scoring their first touchdown of the ball game. Cleveland leading 26-10. Hans' team is aboard for the Browns, looking for the onside kick. And they go deep into the end zone as Derek Alexander just watches it, and we have the touchback. We'll bring it out to the 20-yard line with 6 minutes and 45 seconds left here at Cleveland Stadium.
Well, I'm afraid this might be a little too late for Jeff Blake and company on offense. The big play on that scoring drive was Pickens down the sideline, getting those yards after the catch. Then that short play to get him down at about the 1-yard line, and then the option to Bieniemy from Jeff Blake. You see right there the Pro Bowler. He might be cold now, but come late January, early February in Hawaii, where the Pro Bowl's played, he'll be plenty warm.
20-yard line. Now the Browns will work on the clock, and of course they will use Ernest Biner, and he's going to pick up about 6 yards on the left-hand side. The margin now is 16 points. Buffalo, as you see, back in front of Miami, 23-20. 2 touchdowns.
Cincinnati, that's their second. It'll be a 40-second timeout.
Cincinnati with that timeout, but 2 touchdowns and 2 two-point conversions, and then you're right back in the ballgame. But you need a break, and you need it soon. You need the defense to do something to pick up a fumble and score.
Yeah, you need
to give you momentum. You can't
need
just
a
wait.
turnover for a touchdown. From Dave Shula's standpoint, you've got to have quick points, because down by this many points, you're not going to get anything very flashy. You haven't gotten anything flashy from Bill Belichick and the Browns, and you'll get less flashy kind of offense out of them now. So that father-son challenge?
Yes, that was fun.
I taped that. That was fun to watch some of those guys play, and the looks on their face getting to play in a competitive situation with their sons was pretty nice.
Yes. All right, Biner's first down as we go down to Jim Gray.
All right, thank you very much, Charlie. Carl Pickens, the wide receiver, has a slight concussion. They're concerned about him. He will not return. However, they want to emphasize right now it is just a slight concussion. Charlie?
All right, thank you, Jim. The boos in the background the extra security that is now beginning to circle the field here at Cleveland Stadium. Jim Gray, of course, addressed that at the top of the telecast. And so it's here for everybody's protection. And so far, now, it's been very calm, and it's been the way that you would want it to be. First down for Cleveland, and the score is the way that you would want it to be if you're a Cleveland Browns fan. You're up by a score of 26-10, and Ernest Biner carries. And will that do it for him? 102 yards in 30 carries for Ernest Biner, and that is the first 100-yard rusher since Hurd did it in 1994, right?
But Leroy Horde was the last guy, huh?
Yeah.
94. Well,
a year ago.
That's the one thing that was missing this entire year. Remember last year, this team was smashing the ball down the field. Vinny Testaverde was completing high percentage passes to his receivers. They were playing great defense. Suddenly, after 15 very poor showings, or at least 6 or 7 very poor showings, the same offense shows up that everybody thought they'd have at the beginning of the year.
And here is Biner as he pops through, cuts back, and has finally swarmed under, but a huge gain of 19 yards. So he's now over 120 on the ball game.
Remember what we said. If you thought the boring part was early, get up by 16 points with less than 5 minutes to go in a ball game and see how boring the play calling gets then. Then you're all you're going to get is that straight, smash you in the face type of running game with a running back who's running right now like it's always downhill.
And now he comes out, gets a bit of a breather.
He's got all offseason to rest. I wouldn't rest him now. I'd keep giving him the ball. Look at the differential in total yards there.
Ricky Powers is now the tailback. He has the ball. And we've got a couple of flags that are going to stop the play. And usually indicates one of two things, a false start, or time has expired.
I think time expired. Ran that thing down a little too low.
The ball snap, false start on the left guard. 5 yards, it's still first down.
Probably both things at the same time. So 4-19. The Browns, with a win here, the record on the year would be 5 victories against 10 defeats. And the Bengals, this would be their 9th loss against 6 wins. The ball at the 50-yard line, and the last bark this afternoon from the dog pound here at Cleveland Stadium. First down, 15. Leap to the right side. And Powers moves around the corner, about 4 yards on the play to the 46. That will be it. Darrell Williams takes him out.
I think that's a bit severe. You don't think so, huh?
Well, they know something.
Well, these are fabulous football fans.
They really are. They have a great
They
time.
deserve football.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to have this football team. But like I said earlier, I mean, this is a game now that's going to be run by corporations and billionaires. And there's no place for it anymore, I think, for the family ownership type standpoint. And you're not going to see that anymore.
And I'm nodding my head in complete agreement with you.
And the problem when you get in that situation is the fans and the little guys are not very important to the corporations and the billionaires.
Cincinnati, that's their third.
Cincinnati takes their last timeout. It becomes a bottom line, just like any other corporate business. But still, on Sunday afternoon, for 3 hours, it is a game.
See, that's how important it is. On a busy season like this, he's got the time to make it here.
I would have been disappointed if he hadn't been here today.
He and all those reindeers got their embossed tickets.
That's right. And I asked him how you were doing this year, and he said, still mixed emotions. Waiting to see if you finish strong in the next week. Ernest Biner is back in for the Cleveland Browns. It'll be 3rd down and 8, 4 minutes and 9 seconds. And you'd almost figure that they would run 2 plays here.
Look at the pieces.
Yes.
See, now
little by little, the memorabilia.
Well, I figured that
starting to take shape.
I figured that socket wrenches and wrenches were big in the paraphernalia coming in here because people are going to start taking seats. Ooh, almost that turnover you talked about earlier, Charlie.
Throwing the string. Brett Walderstedt was there for Cincinnati, and now the pushing and shoving, that will delay things for a moment. 4:03, that is the time remaining. It's going to be 4th down.
That's the main difference. The main difference between you and I at the end of this ball game and the rest of these people is you and I aren't going home with our seats.
No, that's right.
I think a lot of these people are going home with the seats. See, now they've messed up. See, now you don't want to do, if you don't have a saw with you, that's no good for you because you can't break that out of the stadium. Now, I mean, well, yeah, I mean, unless you're on a bus, you can't get that plank in there.
This is the first punt. It's a 9-minute mark in the first quarter.
Now, if you're in one of those little small seats with the little tiny slats, the baseball type seats, those go in the, I mean, those fine, those break down. You break that thing down like a shotgun and stuff it under your coat, and you got it home with you.
43 yards. We love you, man. Cincinnati bringing everybody, trying to get the turnover.
We love you, man, and somewhere Mr. Modell's going, what, you still can't have my football team, I'm sorry.
And the end, possibly it is, at least for a little while. And an interesting future and a lot of things to well unfold. But the one thing, the reaction across the country and around the world, we of course have documented some of it today in the last 6 weeks. All of the media, from Sports Illustrated down to your weekly magazines or your weekly sports journals or your weekly newspapers or your bi-weekly papers, and it's all been the same story. The fans of the Cleveland Browns deserve a professional football team. And here comes Blake to throw. Juggled, and it is incomplete. James Joseph, the intended receiver. Griffin had the coverage on it.
You know, NBC, we did a great thing on the pregame show, I think a week ago, with that whole thing on free agency.
Yes.
You know, and one thing that came out of this free agency in our current situation is, you know, in that agreement between the players and the NFL, the players got a lot of great things. The NFL got a lot of great things. The one thing the league never dreamed in its worst nightmare that they had to build into a collective bargaining agreement was protecting itself from inside. And that's where the flaw is now in the CBA. The flaw in the CBA is there's nothing inside to keep the other owners from sort of feeding on themselves and feeding on the league. They don't have a bad collective bargaining agreement. They're just, they're starting to act like baseball owners. They're starting to forget about the tradition in the heart of this game. The heart of this game are the people that are taking home seats and ripping up the stands. And the heart of this game are fans just like this.
Larry Webster knocking the last one away. And here is the draw to Eric Bieniemy. Pepper Johnson with the tackle. 3.5 minutes, and that is it here at Cleveland Stadium. Time remaining. 26-10. Browns are leading. Browns have had a very good showing today.
God, there's a bad hair day.
A true bad hair day. 4th down and 4. And it is too high, incomplete. And so Cleveland holds, and they will take over. David Dunn, the intended receiver.
And what is done, too, right now are Cincinnati's playoff hopes are done.
Yes.
They came in here hoping for 8-8 and a shot, and they aren't going to get it.
Come have some fun with it. And then share it all on NBC. Ricky Powers gets the call. And now, of course, the Browns, as they have, the last 10 or 12 minutes, they just want to work on the clock and to run it down.
They've been running down the clock since 1 o'clock.
That's right. They started out working the clock.
Bill Belichick started running out the clock as soon as it started ticking down from 60. It was 59, 58, and it was gone. It was running out the clock. And Cincinnati didn't stop it then. They haven't stopped it now, and they're just getting a face full of Browns right now.
2nd down and 8. Powers, the running back. He has the ball, and we've got flags. And this call will go against the Browns.
False start, number 89 before the snap, 5 yards. Still 2nd down.
That's on tight end Harold Bishop. Let's check out Vinny Testaverde's statistics on the afternoon. They will not come into play here, but he has had a very good day, completing 22 of 32 He's thrown for 241 yards and 2 touchdowns. And a cherry bomb goes off in the end zone. Now they'll take the countdown to the 2-minute warning.
And they're doing exactly, you know, look at he's just sort of motioning down. There goes the rest of the bench. See, now they don't need a saw. That's one thing. A mob can come in handy. You don't need a saw if you got a mob. They can break up boards.
All right. We have the 2-minute warning. We'll step aside. Back in a moment. And the message to Browns fans all over the world. You are unique, and your support through the years has been extraordinary. It's been a great run. Former and current Browns players and coaches, thank you.
And that was their reaction, though. They went crazy. They started throwing planks and boards, and what the officials did, they spun them around, and now they're heading in the other direction to get away from that dog.
Get away from the dog pound. This is the 3rd time in the history of the dog pound at the end of a ball game that this has taken place.
Well, the fans didn't think much of that message.
No, they disagreed with it.
Well, to me, you know what that said?
It's a put down to the fans.
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, to me, that message right there said, don't go away mad, just go away.
Yeah.
And when you make a mob mad and they start getting, see, now they were happy for boards. Now they're going for whole seating sections. They're starting to come out of the stands now. And you know, guess where that's going to end up? That's not going to be in a bus. That's not going to end up anywhere else. See that one seat the guy's holding up?
Yeah, he's cool.
He's smart. That's going under the jacket.
Right.
These are going to be thrown onto the field.
See, it's missing right now.
So somebody ought to get out of the way, because there it comes.
Yeah. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, 120 and counting. 4 season tickets right down the tube. And this is 4th down, and Cleveland, of course, just working on the clock as they have it documented throughout the ballgame. 109.
You know, this is the NFL in '95, and we look at that pile of seats they've thrown over the edge there. Well, I'm going to figure this out real quick. The PSLs, the personal seat licenses, we got to have about 20 seats there at about, what, 4,000 a crack. Got about 80,000
right there.
Personal seat licenses sitting in the ground all broken and battered there.
And if they make a bonfire and toast some marshmallows, it'd be very expensive.
Yeah, that's I think a lot of fans would love to burn seats. They have to pay the right to buy tickets to a game for.
Wide open over the middle. As Cincinnati comes back to Darnay Scott, 21 yards. They're now in a hurry-up mode. 57 seconds and counting. They are out of timeouts. They can spike it here to stop the clock. They're going to come out throwing. And here's the screen. And it's Eric Bieniemy to the 45-yard line. Clock still moving. 40 seconds and counting. Now you look for the spike here. Everybody hurry up and get back. He's going to spike it. Or is he going to fake the spike?
Hurry up and get back.
He's shown the spike. No, he does spike.
He spiked it, Charlie. You better hurry up and get back in the huddle, but you also better hurry up and not go near the stadium, the edges of the stadium here.
It's interesting. I wonder if they will want to turn it around here.
There's coordination.
Cincinnati Bengals.
That's a little coordination.
Teamwork.
That takes teamwork.
Teamwork. You'll see teamwork in the Lexus Challenge. Coming up next.
With a professional player, a senior professional, and a celebrity amateur.
That's a professional segue.
That's right. See, I've been in this stadium. I mean,
they are going to turn it around. They're going to turn it around again, yeah.
Charlie, I first came here, you know, like 18 years ago in '77. It was a dump in '77. It's a dump now. But, you know, I came to a baseball game here 2 years ago. I mean, there were seats that I don't think had been painted since Bob Feller was pitching here.
Well, Jim Brown's great line says, I love the stadium, and I love the locker room. It is exactly the same as what I played here.
That's one thing unique about sports in this country. You know, one guy's dump is somebody else's tradition.
Third down and a yard, 30 seconds. Far side, you need to get out of bounds, and you do. And that, of course, is David Dunn, the rookie from Fresno State. And a special weapon waiting. He doesn't have to get airborne, though, for about 6 or 7 days. And I'm counting on him to come by my house.
He makes a list of people that are nice.
Oh, look at this. Look at this.
And a list of people that are naughty, right, Charlie?
That's right.
I think the local fans have got a rather short list of people they'd like to see not get anything for Christmas.
Yeah, but I got 3 grandkids that can hardly wait. It's going to be a great Christmas. And we hope that it's a great one for you, wherever you are on Christmas Day. Knocked away and almost intercepted. Oh, a good defensive play. Rob Burnett. He's had an excellent game.
He and Footman and Webster have really done a job on that side.
Jim Brown looking on to what could well be the final game here at Cleveland Stadium. He said if the ball club does move, he will not be a part of it anymore.
There's a guy who would definitely want to say, sort of a penny for your thoughts right now. He told Jim Gray in the pregame that, I'm going to keep it all inside. It's not coming out, but it's got to be screaming to get out right about now for Jim Brown.
Blake running, throwing, and it is incomplete. That stops the clock now with 14 seconds. It will be 3rd down. And even though many of the fans have left, as we look around, there were some 55,000 plus, the dog pound is intact. Mike Brown looking on.
The drive against Denver, the fumble against Denver, and the ladder 95
against the fans of the Browns. Flag is down on the play. They're going to stop it. Anthony Pleasant is called off at the last possible moment. What could have been a
Ball start, number 61, 5 yards, still 3rd down.
False start on Melvin Tootin. It could have been an unpleasant afternoon. I think the officials here have really kept this game well in control.
Oh, they have, and it's just been a good performance by Cleveland here. Cincinnati just came in and really played terribly, and Cleveland had a good game plan and executed it perfectly.
Pass over the middle is complete to David Dunn. May take the countdown because they will not get another playoff. And Jeff Blake's streak of 21 games with a touchdown pass is snapped. Randy Cross and Charlie Jones, it has been our pleasure to cover what could well be the final game here at Cleveland Stadium with the score 26-10 Cleveland Browns. And now let's go next door to Bob Costas. Bob?
All right, Charlie, as you said, it might well be the final Browns home game. As everyone is aware, there are a lot of potential scenarios, including this very franchise remaining here or another franchise soon arriving to fill the void if Art Modell succeeds in taking them in the near future or immediate future off to Baltimore. But in any case, this represents the closing of a chapter of some kind. And so not just for this day or for this season, but for this era. From all of us at NBC Sports, a salute to what the Cleveland Browns have been and to the fans who have supported them so well for so long.